Lovely stuff. And there we are. We are live. And we're here this evening, this fine evening, where actually the weather's not too bad. It's sort of not too warm, not too cold. It's rare, I think, for me to start a stream and not complain about the weather in recent times, but I'm feeling okay about how things are. Obviously, a big fan of the sun, our resident lizard. I'm joined by Pip, because we're going to be talking about Lizardmen. How are you doing today, Pip?
Great. Yep, the power of the sun is definitely being felt in London. It's been a warm day here, but that does just charge our batteries. So,
Yeah.
excited to talk about all things lizard.
Hopefully you don't run out of battery power because you did have to close the window as it was blinding the blinds. It was blinding. You were looking like some sort of messiah-like figure, actually backlit by the bright light streaming in. But
That's what all my colleagues say as well. So, it's consistent everywhere I go.
and not only are you a very storied Lizardman player, you've been playing them for multiple editions. You have done very well with them. You've won a GT with them. Also incredibly humble. That's that's what everyone
And
says about
and
you.
and modest and good looking.
All of these things, have been said, exclusively by you. But why would you lie? I can't. I
Yeah.
trust your words. So it's we're gonna go from there. Anyway, we are here to talk about some Lizardmen, which is ideal. Really excited to hear your thoughts on them because the draft dropped as I think I'd left the house like 5 minutes beforehand, and I saw that they were, the video had gone up or they were streaming on Twitch. I can't remember which one it was. I was like, cool. So then I got back the next day, managed to record my thoughts on it, and I feel like it's quite linear in terms of the progression from Legacy to 1.5 to here. But I'm also sure there's going to be some fun stuff that you've cooked up because you were doing that with the Lizardman, the previous rules that they had back when they needed some real cooking. So I'm curious to see what you've been working on. Before we get started on the tier list, and we'll talk about that, we should have a bit of a general chat about the book. So before we do anything else, before we get into the actual talking, if you're here and you haven't already, please give the stream a thumbs up. Helps me get picked up by the algorithm. How do you feel about this draft document so far for Renegades?
Yeah. Positives, the top line. I mean, I think it's just great to see the Renegade project kind of progressing with this much energy and love being poured into it. I think this draft hits a whole bunch of things that were kind of obvious, outstanding items. If you were a Lizman player, you wanted to see cleaned up beyond what 1.5 did. I think it does a bunch of little interesting things as well. I think it's got a couple of kind of like smash hit areas where it goes beyond that kind of just like, oh, of course this should be this way, and it kind of gets quite creative. I do feel that Val himself has said that he did this one in a rush, and I feel there's further it can go. There's some bits that feel a bit incomplete to me. But I like that it's been kind of cautious with its changes. I don't think Lizardmen were an army that were crying out to be, redesigned. I think they've got an identity, and I think this sticks pretty well to that identity.
Yeah, that's definitely in line with how I felt about it. I feel like they're a faction that's had a lot of support over the years, and also when the faction is, hey, we've got big dinosaurs, I think it's quite easy to draw very obvious lines in the way that you might want to build the army in some respects. So it's nice to see that it's more in line with sort of like the Dark Elf changes, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of making it more how it should be, as opposed to changing things up.
Yeah, and I think probably, I mean, Val's spoken about how he's had so much feedback from people about Lizardmen, and it sort of, he received multiple documents, one of which was mine, and yeah, I think that shows that there is a conception in the community of what Lizardmen are. I think it varies a little bit. I think it's interesting. I listened to the Squarebase video. I haven't listened to your video yet, but they I think Val, if I'm right, he's came into the game after 8th edition was dead, but playing 8th edition.
Sure.
And I think he's maybe kind of got a kind of 8th edition tournament perspective on Lizardmen, where you've got this kind of the two slan floating about in the cloud of skinks, and that is not my kind of. I mean, that's probably the edition I played the most of, but it's not where I formed my kind of like imprinted image of what Lizardmen are about. So
because you were
it's not like
hatched quite a long time ago, so you've played Lizardmen for many years.
I started Lizardmen in 1997. They were in the 5th edition starter box that my uncle bought me when I was 9, and I've played Lizardmen ever since. So I've played Lizardmen for 5, 6, 7, 8 old world 5 editions, but I was a child in 5th, and I didn't play that much as 7th, so maybe more like 3.
3 and 2 halves we'll give you. I think that seems fair. Like I played. I started in 6th, but I would say that I played half of 6th because I was a child. So we'll give ourselves half points for that one, I think.
Yeah. No, and 6th edition Lizardmen I think are what kind of my heart goes back to, and probably what Val had to resist my comments to recreate, where I was saying the Slan should be able to blow up half the table and then just walk away with shades on. Yeah, I think it's great progress, and I hope that it continues to iterate. I hope that the fact that this is the first draft the public has seen doesn't mean that we're locked to these being the changes and things could just row back from here. I hope there's space to sort of tune points and stuff further than what is in this initial document.
Something that he did say that I picked up on is because the FAQ is theoretically so close, he kind of didn't care about the points too much, which is super fair enough, because theoretically we might be getting points changes and then he'll need to come back and do them there. There were some things that I pointed out in my review where I was like, I know he said he's not going to talk about changes. These need changes. There are things that need to drop significantly in my mind.
Yeah, we're back in rumored FAQ land, aren't we? I remember with the 1.5 changes where it was just around the corner for about 7,000 years.
Well, so that was my fault. That was me. I was told things were coming, and I was sermonizing. I was at the pulpit of it's got to be coming soon. I've been told the things that are coming, and then a chunk of those things, not all things, but I'd been told a lot of stuff, like people were like, oh, have you heard this or this?
Yeah.
And these were people that I trusted and people who had been right in the past. But I was getting things third hand. So really, if anything, it was my fault for propagating that. However, This time round, the rumors have come from a YouTube channel that has, as far as I can tell, and it's a French channel, it's 10 from the back, theoretically 100% hit rate. I'll be honest, I haven't checked. But they got
on one past incident, right? They got 1 out of 1. In physics, we would call that statistically insignificant.
In Warhammer rumors, we'd call that the best we're going to fucking get. That's a very fair point.
Yeah. I can tell you a coin flip always lands on heads, and if I do it once. But no, I don't mean to slag them off, and I don't mean to impugn anybody. I just think that even when you have good sources coming out of GW, right, they can change their minds on a dime.
That's true. That's true.
We'll see what we see. That's all we can say.
Yeah, I mean, just to while we're on the subject, oh, I've got something on my desk I need to show you as well. We'll get to that in a second. But also, I'm not sure who said it. I think it might have been Rob said it. And obviously, Rob does have links. Pretty good links, maybe not necessarily to the rules team at the moment necessarily, but definitely in terms of like people within the company. And he's been talking, I think it was him, apologies if I've got this wrong, about how the new starter box set is Cathay and Warriors of Chaos, and it also sounds like that's coming imminently. So I've got a lot of faith.
Yeah, I'm excited. Just every time I see someone saying, "Oh, it's probably going to be this date," I have those kind of flashbacks to this time.
Yeah, and it'd be really funny if it's wrong, and I'm just here spreading hype again, and I'm completely incorrect. That would be rough. Also, correction. Thank you, Justin. They're not French. They're a French-speaking channel, but they're French Canadian.
Oh, that's a dangerous confusion to make. Yes.
I'll be honest. I don't know whether who I would have offended in that. Whether it's French people.
I think the Quebecois, but maybe French people as well. Yeah. Nick can probably tell us.
He probably can, actually.
I probably offended them more with my pronunciation of Quebecois right there than you have. So spreading it around.
From my midweek meta videos, I've been learning not to try when I see a word that I just definitely can't pronounce. That seems to be the safest way to do things. However, I was in my local element, who I do have an affiliate link to. This is smooth. If you're looking to buy Warhammer in the UK, you can go to the link in my description for a referral. And that gives me a kickback on stuff that you buy through the link. However, look at this. Look at this Saurus Warrior in old Warhammer Fantasy packaging that was just on their shelves. Or, correction, on the little metal hook that these boxes are on.
Yes.
$12.75. I don't know if you can see it on the back there. It just says Saurus Old Blood, $12.75. And it's one that comes with a base. Obviously, the wrong size base. Because this is printed back when it was 25mm. But, yeah, I hadn't even seen this model before. So I was like, oh, well, I'm not doing Lizardmen anytime soon. But I've got to get that because it doesn't exist anywhere else.
Yeah, I think that came out in 8. That might have been one of the sort of like, oh, we've got a sort of off-month releases that they would trickle out occasionally.
I wouldn't be surprised.
That's a good find.
It's a molded base, and I think that was more that sort of era, sort of the mid-2000s to the mid-2010s was when they had some molded bases, but more sort of like in that 2010 to 2014 range, if I am remembering correctly. But that's also about when I took a break, so... Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to talk about the stuff on the tier list. Before we get into it, do you have any general thoughts on any specific rules or things you want to talk about that aren't necessarily unit specific that we can talk about when we get them to?
I think most stuff is unit specific, or you can talk about in the context of a unit. I mean, the army-wide, the truly army-wide or nearly army-wide stuff that's changed. Predatory Fighter is all on Saurus pretty much, and Ripidactyls.
We'll get to them.
Yeah, and then Aquatic is fun, but not going to change any real game outcomes in terms of competitive play. So I think it's mostly you can talk about it unit by unit. I think.
Cool. If there's anything else that comes up, we can always just seg off and talk about whatever.
You just need to take 45 minutes for the slam. That's all.
I've realised that I haven't given you a link to the way that we're doing this is through a Discord call, so you're not able to see. If you want to pull it up on the stream in the background, you'll be able to. You got it already.
I can trust you. I can hold a mental picture. That's one of the slam disciplines.
Excellent stuff. Which now you can take 3 of as opposed to just a single one. So a big buff for your mental acuity. Let's start off then, because we're going to go through. The way we're going to do this is we're going to rank them, and the rankings are: does this go in every tournament list? Is it a competitive staple? Is it solid? Is it weak? Or is it unplayable? With something like the Slan, because it's so points heavy, I think we could arguably, like, if you think it's so dominant that it should go in every list, but some people are going to play other things, we can put it up there. For example, because it's 500 points, if you wanted to do Monster Mash, even though it doesn't fit within the bounds of the Monster Mash, it would go in every list that fits it. We can put it in there. So it doesn't have to be a hard and fast, one person didn't run the Slan, move it down a tier. It's more a general vibe.
I think I see. So SS is, of course, you're taking it.
Of course.
Why are you asking? A, it's a staple choice.
Yep.
B and C, we've got some flex. And then D, or is it F, is...
I go straight to
get
F
out
for an
in the bin.
I don't know that there's anything I want to put in there. Don't tell me if there's anything you want to put in there. But I can't think of anything offhand.
Yeah, let's see as we get to it.
Absolutely. We don't want to ruin the surprise. So, fun enough, starting off with the Slan. Before we talk about it, and what we'll do is we'll hand off, and we can we'll talk about it for a bit. One of us will rate it, the other one can dispute or agree, and we'll go from there. Before we talk about the Slan, which I'll let you talk about, because this is obviously one of the very key parts, you said that you, Val had to maybe resist the siren call of you getting him to write the Slan to the point of it being able to blow up entire boards and then walk away with cool sunglasses on. That's interesting, because my perspective on it was like, oh, I don't know if this is going a little bit far. In my low magic... tabletop Warhammer game, it's the sort of main concerns I had were around the casting for Lizardmen as opposed to anything else.
I can give you my potted argument on this, which is I think we do have like lots of problem wizards in the game right now.
Yes,
but I think what those wizards have in common is spam.
Okay,
I think if you think about and feel free to call me out and point out the exception that busts my rule here. But so obviously, Wild Herd, you are spamming wizards who are all picking up a bonus that you pay for once.
Mm-hmm.
You've got vampire counts. You've got wizards who are spamming Invocation of Nehek, and they are all benefiting from an aura again from the Mortis engine.
Yep.
You've got if greenskins are doing it, they're probably stacking wizards into one unit of orcs, and they're all getting a casting bonus, and they're all spamming out Gaze of Gork or something.
Yep.
Maybe with some goblins around the side doing Itchy Nuisance because it's just such a great spell. But this is to me, this is the kind of what is left as the kind of top strategy for Magic most of the time in 1.5. Speaking old world, not Renegades, is I've got a good spell, I've got a casting bonus that I can apply across the board, and I'm going to keep casting that spell. Slan doesn't fulfill any of those criteria. Sure. You can only have one of him, even if you led to believe that you could have two by the muster list in Grand Melee. You can only have one level 4. His disciplines are all unique, so even if you did have two Slan in a 3,000 point game or a tournament that didn't have Grand Melee, you couldn't replicate any combo that you're going to build with him.
Sure.
And he so the only point he may fulfill is he may have access to a good spell. He may have Monsoon, which we might get to later. Is looking quite strong now, but he could only make one copy of that. And if you're talking about, he's going to have Lore Familiar, or he's going to use his 5 spells to get a good spell from somewhere in the list that you roll for, he's only ever going to have one copy of that spell. So playing the ranges, having your one Dispel Scroll item that automatically stops a spell is just going to shut that strategy down completely on the go turn. So I think the Slan being strong is not automatically putting him into this category of a problem that these other lists that are maybe causing a slightly oppressive meta around Magic are creating. I think the Slan being strong, I think, is essential for his flavor. I think the rules need to deliver this idea that if the Slan and an Empire level 4 are having a casting duel, it's harder for the Empire level 4 to dispel the Slan than it is for the Slan to dispel the Empire level 4. I think if he doesn't deliver that, and not just on like the one spell where he goes all out, but just like all the time, I think that for me is like that's the minimum of what the Slan needs to be. That he doesn't really notice the little insects buzzing around him. Except when he's eating them to get casting bonuses.
That is a problem.
Yeah. We'll get to that. But so I think in general, like the Slan having access to strong casting bonuses, the Slan having access to strong casting rules, even if Magic is causing some problems somewhere here and there in the game, I think he's mostly just playing with the rulebook spells. With one copy of any rulebook spell, I don't think you break the game. That's my short. Probably wasn't that short, but that's my argument for why short. A strong Slan is not a problem.
Sure.
And I think he's.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
He's also a sort of an iconic staple of the army. So I think if you think about armies having strengths that they don't necessarily kind of find the fairest possible rate to pay for, and when you talk about how fairly he's priced, I think this is one that the Lizardmen deserve to have. You go back and look at the sort of the way people talk about Lizardmen going back all the way to their inception. The magic is a big feature.
Yeah,
they should be a high magic army.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually credited you in my video about Lizardmen, going back to when you were talking about how the magic system in Old World is much flatter than previous editions, and that was sort of what I was talking about in terms of my concerns and how it's harder to stack bonuses on top without making something a problem. But when I talk about Magic overall, I think I can live with the Slan being good, probably. But you've mentioned Monsoon. Let's just go straight into Monsoon, because this is one of the things that I think is a problem. Because it's all well and good to say that the Slan itself can only cast one copy of Monsoon. But what if you had 2 Troglodons and 3 Skink Priests, and then also the Slan? Or even just like a less unreasonable version of that, which is triple Skink Priest and the Slan for like 700 points.
Well, I think the Troglodons might be a best bet, right? Because they can itchy grub at least 8. Whereas your Skink Priest will struggle to cast the Monsoon on 10 where it is right now. So I've had a journey with Monsoon personally. When I started playing just straight Legacy Lizardmen, I was like, this is such a non-spell. What am I doing here?
Sure.
Why don't I get real magic? And gradually over like by inches through the FAQs, it has got better. So the 1.5 change to the way vortices moved really helped it. Before it would, it would scatter and then touch something and then be out of the way, and now it will stay in things' way. And we've moved to more of a shooting kind of meta, so the -1 to hit thing has got a bit more relevant. And we've moved to more of an infantry meta, so having this 5-inch template on the board that is dangerous terrain is really impactful, as opposed to just flyers everywhere. Obviously, we still have our share of flyers everywhere, but so I now have a sort of affection for Monsoon as it is in the Renegade 1.5 draft, and I think that's a useful low casting value spell. And in particular, it's useful to Skink Priest as well. On an 8, you can cast it. I think the new version, it's obviously now for the Slan. If you want a Skink to get that out, you need some kind of a boost. And then maybe you fish for it every turn, and you just hope that once you roll that 10, it doesn't get dispelled, which is quite likely.
Sure.
The change to the way it makes things wet, I don't think makes a huge difference. It does feel a bit rough in the current version that you managed to get a cannon wet, which takes a lot of doing, and then it's just roll a 2+ and you're fine. But I don't think that's the most impactful change. I think being able to control where it goes and being able to not move it at all, it's exactly what Lizardmen want in a gunfight scenario, because one of the major problems that you have to try to plan for with this is, how do I protect myself from stuff like cannons? I've got so much of the power of the roster is in unridden monsters. I don't have anything more than a 24-inch range to shoot back, so how am I going to project power and not just get shot off the board? Having this massive line of sight blocking template that you can just move around is kind of just like, well, that's the obvious win button answer you would want to that problem. Maybe interacts a little bit weirdly with some sort of tournament packs, because the way people write their cannon fixes in tournament packs varies from place to place. Some people say, if a cannon can't see you, it can't hit you. And in that case, Monsoon is just saying no. And some people say woods and hills have this extra effect, in which case Monsoon is not stopping the cannonball. They'll just put the ball on the other side of the cloud and fire through it. But yeah, it's incredible, and it keeps all that utility of being a line of sight blocker and being dangerous terrain for blocking up charges and getting in people's way for movement, which is what I use it for mostly in the current in the 1.5 draft. So I think it's possibly a very frustrating experience for the opponent having this nigh undispellable template, unless you have a really strong dispel game that's just getting in your way, constantly blocking your line of sight, constantly foiling your charges, blocking your shooting. And I also think it maybe takes a little bit of the fun out of it for the Lizardmen player, because I think your Skink Priests are now just hurting for a utility spell to cast. You can take a pop at Apotheosis, but Apotheosis is a spell that has 2 casting values, and a Skink Priest is really only ever going to hit the lower one. There are very few. Well, a Skink Priest only has 3 laws it can choose from. It doesn't want Hammerhand unless it's on an Stegodon. It doesn't want Stormcall, because nobody wants Stormcall. So it's Glittering Robe, which maybe you can find a use for on that model. But I think it's and Law of Lustria only has those 2 spells, so I think it's it's robbing the Skink to pay the Slan, and I don't think it's going to be a very positive experience on the board for either player. That's maybe sounds a bit too negative, but I'm not a big fan of the Monsoon change, and I do think that is very strong. I think to spam it will be wildly expensive, but could be wildly uninteractive as well.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at it and I was like, this has to go. Like we've fundamentally changed the way that templates work, because it was such a problem to be able to choose the way that one template went. And sure, it's a different experience. It's not a damage experience, but it's in some ways it's going to be a lot more frustrating than Pillar of Fire was. At least with Pillar of Fire, if you knew about it, you'd be like, oh man, guess I'm going to leave a 3-inch bubble between all my units. What a pain in the ass. Whereas here, you're just like, oh, I guess I never make a charge. Neat.
Yeah. It's in some ways it's better than Column of Crystal. I mean, obviously you can move through it, but very few things really want to move through fully line of sight blocking dangerous terrain.
Have you thought about the fact that you can put a skink on a skink priest on a bird, march the bird up the board, cast through it, and then just like drop a monsoon next to it, and then roll at least a 2 and cover the skink so it can't be interacted with?
I don't think that works.
Why?
You'd have to move the skink into it because
right. Oh yes, no, that's a very good
bounce
point.
Off your base.
That's a very good point. Okay, fair.
Also, he hasn't put the Pterodon mount in for the skink priest yet, has he?
Oh, I thought it had. I mean, obviously you could do it with like a cloak of, a flying carpet or whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say if he's on a mount, I believe the aquatic rule goes away, in which case he would start taking dangerous terrain tests. But yes, I mean you can use this for cover. You can use this for cover on a Stegodon. You can use, you've got your skink priest on a Stegodon who's your arcane vassal bot, and it's just like this land's going to give me my cannon cover and my charge cover, and you can't see me, and then I'm going to poke out and zap you, and then in your start of turn, the monsoon's going to move back in front of me.
Classic.
It's
Well, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, just wanted to pick your brains on that one, but I'm a believer that it needs to be changed for sure.
Yeah, I would agree.
Let's quick. Oh, sorry, you go first.
No, sorry, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was going to move off the topic. I was going to say, on the other hand, Apotheosis, just buff it. Let it heal everything that's multi-wounds.
Yeah, you could do. It's not going to break the game going on to those less good targets, is it? No. I got my first on the table test game with this new draft yesterday versus Tom Wakefield down in London, lovely opponent. And Apotheosis, I took Apotheosis on my Skinks Priest on Stegodon, and it did do great. I just high rolled it, and the Carnosaur, who had just been taken down to 1 wound in a duel with a Bloodthirster and was now facing a duel with Keeper of Secrets, bumped back up to 3 wounds and ate all but 1 of that Keeper of Secrets wounds before he died. So it was very impactful. It's a pretty nice spell to have as a signature on tap. It's not like a top meta-defining spell, but it's so much better than it was.
Yeah, it's very limited in that if it was just something that you could do, if it was Invocation and a Heck, then maybe I'd be like, ooh, healing wounds on all multi-wound monsters. I mean, we have to limit that for vampire counts, but it's not. You've got to pick at the start of the game that you're going to heal your multi-wound models, and sure, you can build into that. But I think given that you're actively giving up taking a different signature spell, and you can interact with it in terms of like dispelling it, I think I'd be completely fine with it just healing multiple wound models.
Yeah, and these models are maximum 7 or 8 wounds. Monsters that cannot access triple saves. So if you spam that out over the battle, if it's the Slan who's taken it and he is just pressing the button as hard as he can to try to hit those 10s, you're maybe gonna hit the kind of durability of a top tier ridden monster over the course of a game where you get the big heal and the wounds are there to be healed.
Yep.
3 or 4 times, but unless you have that scenario, it's still something that's very much within the bounds of the game as we know it.
Yeah, absolutely. And since we're talking about the Slan, also it's lost its 360-degree line of sight.
Yes,
and also large target. Does that mean you can't magic missile? Am I just stupid?
Large target was changed. Goes back to Renegades 1.5, and characters see through their own units. That is a thing that is buried in the core rulebook. Which makes for some really horrible shenanigans with like Bretonnian Pegasus characters in Pegasus units and skirmish charge conditions.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he does not need a special rule to see through his own Temple Guard.
Sure.
Large target, when you embed in a unit, is a whole can of worms, which has existed in past editions, but it's like, well, the Slan's a large target, so someone in this close order unit can see you. So can I declare a charge?
I guess yes would be my answer in the way the world works. So yeah, getting rid of that. Fair enough. I just the only reason that I sort of had the like, how does this work is because I had missed that you can see through your own models.
Yeah,
which is
and that's the large target is also a big old reduction in his power as general, because spreading that leadership 9 cold-blooded bubble in a 18-inch aura was very strong.
True.
But yeah, he's not large target. The not seeing out of 360 out of the unit, I think, is a positive change in terms of Renegades trying to follow the lead of how the core game works.
Yeah.
It's not a benefit he ever had before. I think it was kind of a response to, well, everyone else is getting to play with these lone wizard rules now, and he can't effectively, or it's much riskier for him to try to. So, but I think it was very risk free to be in the Temple Guard and just be like, yeah, I've got 360. What are you going to do about it? So I think him relying on Arcane Vassal does make it more interactive for the opponent, in that you can kind of see the Arcane Vassals as his eyes and ears, and you can try and blind him. Does also, though, give him some new power, because Arcane Vassal has been unlocked from 12-inch range, and it's been unlocked from being once per turn. So now, like, every spell that he's throwing, he can maybe extend its range by 24 inches and do it from a weird angle. And for a caster who has Wind Blast, very strong.
I call it out. I know this is how it was in 8th edition, in that you could cast at 24 inches through him. It feels maybe too much, was my initial take. How do you feel about that?
I haven't got strong thoughts about 24-inch as an exact number. I mean, I think 12 inches is tight. I've felt that with using that rule in the previous drafts, which I used fairly extensively. And 12 inches is when you think that he's sitting inside a unit that is maybe kind of like 8 inches wide. That guy can't meaningly be anywhere that he's not.
Sure,
they're just in the same position in the board. It's just sort of nudging things a bit. So I think 12 inches is tight if he's relying on it more, if he's losing that 360. But I think there might be some wiggle room in between. The classic old world numbers of like 18 and 21 for spells. But yeah, I think the question is, like, what is the best Arcane Vassal going to be? And I think that's something that will probably shake out on the board, rather than necessarily being able to theory craft it and identify it right away.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, because it might end up being the Troglodon, which obviously doesn't have that 360-degree line of sight. That's just a different 90.
And if it's a Troglodon, then it being movement 8, it might well be operating at quite a long distance.
Yeah. Dundor points out in chat that you can cast self-range spells now, so you can have more ethereal things. I don't necessarily feel like that causes an issue with how the builds are looking. I feel like you make your list worse by trying to do ethereal shenanigans. Like, the main thing that I see is that it allows you to put, like, Oaken Shield on, like, a skink cohort, if you're going for that as being, like, some sort of infantry brick, and you're casting it from the Slan. But I'm not even sure that like, leans into a build that you want to play with the Slan.
Yeah, I think Walk Between Worlds is interesting on those Arcane Vassals, on the Skink Priest on a Stegodon or the Troglodon. If that is suddenly ethereal, those things are quite squishy to the big hitters that you see on the board, unless they're ethereal, and then they are really Arcane Vassaling with impunity. Question is, if you're on high magic,
I was going to say,
what are you Arcane Vassaling to do?
Yeah, and you're
drain magic out of them. That could be interesting.
Sure.
And then you're pushing your vassal up the board, and then dropping that bubble from them.
You're giving up elementalism, though, right? So that seems bad.
I think high magic's got a place for some builds. I don't think that the Arcane Vassal Walk Between Worlds is the best thing it does, though. I think it's just a thing that it can do.
Yeah. You can obviously split between taking spells from multiple laws, which I just do not generally. No, though that's not built in, so you can't know all of the spells from 2 laws in the way that the Tzeentch Lord of Change can. There wasn't that combination, was there?
No. There's only the only ways to split laws are the classic Arcane Familiar and the Wandering Deliberations. So maybe this is a good segue to the disciplines.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think the disciplines are a good first step, but I would like to see them sort of jazzed up a little bit more. I think that there's a couple of obvious choices and one or two more May takes, and there's quite a few duds still. And I would like to see it. It's maybe a big ask because I don't know that GW ever succeeded in making. They're not great at making item lists where you don't go, "That's the best one. I'm taking that."
Yes.
So I think there's the ones here that are great are obviously Focus Rumination, expensive, but you're now a level 5 wizard. You're going to cast and dispel on a +3. And it's just baked in. You're not doing any shenanigans with an item that may break. You're not trying to stay in range of any auras. So you're paying a premium, but you're just getting something very reliable and that is always on. And it kind of unlocks you to, rather than hoarding your rerolls for Wand of Jet, to use those rerolls where they're most important. You can also stack it with Wand of Jet.
Yeah.
You have just enough points to combine this with Becalming Cogitation, which means that Wand of Jet will be reroll safe on both cast and dispel. So you can get to a +4/+4, which is a lot. It does mean that you miss out on what I think might be the most important discipline, which is the Soul of Stone at 15 points to not blow up your Temple Guard. You cannot do that combo and have Soul of Stone. So it feels like it kind of is a trap for greedy people, but it's going to trap me. It's definitely. I will go into a tournament thinking, but surely I won't roll the explosion this time. And
it's
then
funny,
I will roll the
I
explosion.
quite liked the old Solar Stone. That was something that I wasn't actually sure on because I haven't been playing the brick myself. But the +1/-1, in theory, I like more than I like the ignore the first one.
I tried the old Soul of Stone, and I just rolled things where I was 1 point away from the threshold, and I still
Just
blew up.
3 every time.
I just straight in the bin.
Yeah.
I think Earthing Rod is better than the old Soul of Stone, and Earthing Rod is about 15 points, and the old Soul of Stone, I can't remember how much it was.
It was cheap, 5 or 10.
10, yeah. But I think it might have been 5. But I think it was worth about 5.
Sure.
And it wasn't worth giving up Becalming Cogitation for. I think that was the essential thing because you were limited to 1. But yeah, so I think Soul of Stone, I think, is maybe topping my take this list. Focus Rumination's great. Becalming Cogitation's gone down to a points cost that's more sort of commensurate with Idol of Mork and stuff. So that's also now great value.
Sure.
And particularly when you do the Wand of Jet combo. And I think Focus of Mystery, the one that is kind of like Lore Familiar ++, is great because it is going to unlock you to be able to do other things with your arcane item allowance, but still guarantee that you know the spells, and also take both Apotheosis and Monsoon if you like, which is pretty great. So I think that's definitely worth 45 points. Obviously doesn't combo with some of the other ones. I think Wandering Deliberations is just, it's too rigid. It just does not give you a spell list that's actually good.
I mean, the problem is just most signature spells are kind of pants, right? That's the main.
Yeah, most and of the list that's available to him, explicitly written out, like 3 of those spells are assailments, I think.
There's the Necromancy one. There's the Battle Magic one. Just only 2 of them. Only 2.
Okay, yeah. Dark Magic is just a rubbish magic missile.
Yeah.
So you can have like 2 magic missiles, Drain Magic, Glittering Robe. But it's not doing anything that's justifying this like 400 point wizard battery to take that. So I'd love to see that get more interesting. But I do think, the real sort of the real question comes in: how do these things combine? And I think that having like one really expensive one. And then all the others below 50 points kind of means its combination space so far seems a little bit limited.
Yeah. What do you mean? There's 2 above 50 points. There's the higher state of mind / consciousness.
Oh, yes, which is
points.
Not. Well, so if you do want to run a solo slan now, you can take higher state of mind. You can take the
Transcendent Healing for the regen.
Yeah, and you can take the new item that gives you immunity to multi-wounds.
True.
And
True.
you can just float around and be pretty confident that you're safe. You are also just now kind of a level 4 wizard, and you cost 400 points.
Yeah.
But you've got Arcane Vassal at 24 inches, so you can be really annoying while you hide at the back of the board.
Yeah.
So it's I think, you know, I'm never jazzed by the defensive disciplines, because I'm Temple Guard pilled, and I want to throw bricks at people, not float around and hide. Yeah, I think all the disciplines are, almost all of them, with the exception of One of Deliberations, are interesting on the face of it.
Mm-hmm.
But finding space to use them all is hard.
Sure.
It's because you go, oh, that would be cool if I could fit it in, but I can't fit it in with the things that I really want to justify my existence as the world's most expensive wizard, pretty much. The world's most expensive wizard who doesn't come on a dragon.
It's true. It's true. The world's most expensive wizard, because we just compare the base cost, I guess would be the reasonable way of looking at that. You can't take a more expensive wizard unless you buy a mount, but like who counts that for the cost of the wizard? Anyway, splitting hairs. So general points on there. Obviously, still has the Wisdom of the Old Ones, which was from the original draft, which gives you +1 spell known, and you reroll 1d6 per turn, but you can't reroll a miscast. So it's a pretty beefy caster already. How do you feel about it? Is there anything else you want to say about it? It's got a pretty good spell lore, list of spell laws. Anything that you'd want to add on there other than what we've talked about already?
I think I would say Slan is A. I think the Slan is not S, because the Slan is you're paying out the nose for what you get.
Sure.
And I think the Slan, like we were saying at the beginning, he's one guy. He can cast one copy of the spell that you really want that turn. Hopefully you've got a few spells that you really want that turn, and he can cast them all, and that's where he starts to really justify himself.
Sure.
But you can't have multiple tries. You can't have redundancy. You can't affect. You can't spread the love. But I think at the same time, if you start to think, oh, maybe I'll be efficient and I'll just do without him, and I'll have an army that's like twice as big, then you realize the unit that we are going to put in S needs a good dispeller on the board to be in S.
Sure.
And so the core of the army is going to struggle much more to kind of work if you are seeding the magic phase. And I think without him, you are seeding the magic phase. You won't be able to do anything against a level 3 doing what they want.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's reasonable. I'd have been tempted to put them in S, but you are very much the person who's been playing the Slan and will have more scope on these changes. So I'm going to cede to your feelings on the matter there. I do want to very quickly talk about the Ixie Grub, though, before we move on. Down in points, buffed from being a toughness test to a leadership test, and had the downside removed. So the painted triple buff on an item that was already kind of interesting.
So I know Val's reasoning on this. Val wanted it to be a item that the skink could use.
Mm-hmm.
And the skink is toughness 2.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a toughness test, the skink doesn't use it. Even if you mount him on a Stegodon, since it's a Howder, he keeps his toughness value and can reference it for a toughness test. So I appreciate that reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
So I pointed this out in my feedback. The Itchy Grub is lore-wise associated with the Slan, so I think it's fine for it to be a Slan-associated item. And in that context, I think it makes more sense for it to be a toughness test. You are trying to swallow a bug. That makes more sense as toughness than leadership.
Yeah.
And the more important point here, Cold-Blooded Leadership 9 has a 95% pass rate, so that condition might as well not exist. So I think as a toughness test, it's got a 2/3 chance of working, and it's a +3. It compares very nicely to the Bretonian item, which is automatic and is a +2, and is otherwise, I think, like might be 5 points more expensive.
30 points.
30 points.
Yeah, which is what the
Right,
Exit
so-
Grub is in the Legacy document.
Right. Yeah. So I think parity with that is something to aim for. So, 2/3 chance of +3 versus automatic +2 would be fine. I do think the only reason you wouldn't take a bunch of these is that your stand is nudging up against the 500 point limit,
Which is very easy to do.
And yes, which he probably is.
Yeah.
But having one, I have a friend here in London who likes to run around with a Death Star of Grail Knights that have Elise Duchar and Magic Res 2, and I've just been writing a list where it's like, once per game I can cast Plague of Rust at +7.
Yeah.
And then drop 16 Pterodon rocks on you. Let's see how that goes.
That's pretty unreasonable.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that the Itchy Grub needs a little bit of attention.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure it will get.
Yeah. I don't mind your tweak to it. I think just leave it at 30 points. I don't mind swapping it to the leadership test, because sure, make it so that it just works for the slan, but then have the downside of if you fail the test, you lose a wound, and just leave that on. So then it's used.
Slan's got a lot of wounds. Slan, particularly, you've got Apotheosis.
Yeah.
Slan can really use his wounds as a battery.
I think I'm less bothered about the slan being able to use this, because, as we've said, you're going to be hitting 500 points pretty easily. When I've been sketching out some builds, I'm like, I can fit one grub. Cool. Yeah. I'm kind of okay with you just having one spell that works well. I can live with that. That's not unreasonable.
But yeah, on the Troglodon, it's pretty crazy.
Yes. Yeah. That's true. That is true. But yeah. Okay, cool. Let's move on then, because we had to give a lot of context. We wanted to talk about the bits and pieces. We are 45 minutes in, and we've done a grand total of one thing on the tier list.
That's exactly what I said. We need to talk about the slam. That is the great plan in action.
That's true. So next up, we've got the Saurus Old Blood. So in terms of changes, there hasn't been a huge amount of change. You've lost the Furious Charge on the Old Blood, same for the Scarvet when we get to that one, and also have gained Predatory Fighter, which is kind of a wash on the charge, but then is better in sustained rounds of combat. Predatory Charge is 6s to hit, generate another attack, which is the most milquetoast version of exploding 6s you can get, which I'm very pleased about. I wouldn't want it to be just sort of extra hits automatically. That would feel a bit much, but it does have +1 armor save over where it was previously, which is interesting. Yes. And this is something that I have experienced with Chaos Dwarves, because they've got a similar, +1 save compared to where they were previously in the Legacy documents. So if you're trying to put combat characters on mounts, suddenly you maybe don't need to lean on specifically going for Meteoric Iron. You can just go with something like, I don't know, Armor of Destiny, and you get a good armor save there. Or you can just trust your base armor save, because you're a 3-up save with a shield, and a 4-up save in combat. That's probably just good enough with a ward save if you want to keep things cheap. So I think Old Bloods have honestly kind of made out like bandits. I think they were good already. I've been on the receiving end of yours multiple times, and I think they have got better. And I think they are, for me, they're firmly an A tier still. I don't know that I'd move them up to S, but I think there's something that you will see in a lot of lists. And given that you're spending 500 points on a slan, probably leaves you points to put a Saurus Old Blood in there as well.
Yep, definitely. I love the Scaly Skin coming back. This was the biggest injustice. When I said at the beginning that there are some things that every Lizardman player wanted that this just brought back, and this is one of them: being able to stack your Scaly Skin with armor.
Yep.
Because the models wear armor, but in Old World that doesn't exist. You look across the board at a Temple Guard unit, what's the thing you recognize is the helmets, but for some reason they have the same armor as the Saurus. But that's rant over. I love the Scaly Skin coming back for him. There is a little rules thing I think Val has maybe missed, which is that obviously in Old World you have to deal with this transparency between riders and mounts.
Yeah.
The Old Blood's Scaly Skin should not transfer to the armor save of the Carnosaur.
Yes.
I'm sure he will fix that. But like you say, you can get the Armor of Destiny, and that gets you to a 3-up armor and a 4-up ward.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can take pretty much whole suite of other interesting magic armors, and apart from the ones that have a fixed armor save, they're all going to get more interesting. So I played yesterday with the Armor of Destiny, and a great weapon, and it, like I said, he beat the brakes of a Bloodthirster, and then he almost finished a Keeper of Secrets as well. It's such an upgrade in his durability from saves were really their Achilles heel before. And the Predatory Fighter is really nice too. I think its best characters is where it's shining the most because they've got a nice number of attacks to begin with.
Sure.
And characters can access the Paymaster's coin, which gives you rerolls to hit.
Yeah.
And when you have rerolls to hit, Predatory Fighter is twice as effective. And if you have a Troglodon, Predatory Fighter is twice as effective. And those things multiply.
Oh, bollocks. So in my review,
so I think we worked out.
I was concerned about the combination of hatred, just to not to get ahead of ourselves. The combination of hatred on Razordons. I was like, I think this is the only way you can get hatred in the book. Yeah, it is the only way you can get hatred. Rerolling all hits on 5s and 6s is probably too good. And yeah, of course, Paymaster's Coin, that very common item that is very uncommon on the tabletop, does exist.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of coin-operated Old Bloods and Scarvets in my future.
Insert 25 pence to play.
Yeah, you can't quite do exactly what I want to do, which is Armor of Destiny, Paymaster's Coin, Venom of the Firefly Frog, which is another great upgrade.
Yep.
So now you can make that great weapon magical, and the Green Knight can get in the bin.
Yep.
But yeah, it's pretty good. And of course, Venom of the Firefly Frog gives you poison, which also triggers on 6s to hit. So just 6s are like the lottery coming up for you.
They are, but yeah, you're already strength 7, to be clear. So, like, it's just for people who are hearing this and being worried. I want you to rein some of that worry back in because you're at best getting +1 to wound, realistically.
Yeah, but he does like to fight toughness 6 targets, even toughness 7 targets sometimes, as we've experienced on the board.
Sure, but like we shouldn't balance around Chaos Dwarves because they don't really exist. Like there are like 5 people who play them worldwide, so it's okay. Don't worry about that.
I love watching a Carnosaur eat a train or a tank. I feel like it's the scene in Jurassic Park where it's eating the Jeep.
I hate that thoroughly. And we should, you know what? I haven't got the Carnosaur on here because it's only an upgrade. Let's take this moment to talk about the upgrades on the Carnosaur. I'm just going to hand off to you.
Yeah, so this is another place where the Old Blood's making it like a bandit. The Carnosaur's got so much better. Weapon skill 4, he will no longer hit dragons on 5s. That's just chef's kiss. And then Predatory Fighter, that is great because the attacks on this mount are so high value and you have comparatively few of them. You have 4. So just the ability to spike another attack is really great. And then also, he's just now multiple wounds D3 versus everything. I'm not sure this is necessary. I'd like to see it versus monstrous infantry and cavalry because I always found it very strange that if he's fighting a great eagle, he's going to kick off, but if he's fighting a dragon ogre, he's just like, what's this? This is a leaf of lettuce on my plate. Take it back. But yeah, so multiple wounds D3 versus everything. I don't think it flips many duels on their heads because I don't think there are many non-monster characters who are going to survive fighting the Carnosaur to begin with who wouldn't kill him before he swung. Yeah. And generally, if he was going to swing, you were going to die regardless because he will still just step on you. But I do think it means that he now gets much better at just punking random characters out of units with a few of his attacks. Like you go into that Graveguard brick and the BSB's there, and you swing at him with like 3 of your Old Blood attacks and you whiff, and you're all right. Well, the Carnosaur's going to eat you now, and he will, as opposed to whereas he could whiff as well quite easily before. Yeah. So I think it's a big upgrade. I don't know that it's necessary when he's 175 points. It's quite inexpensive as a monster.
Yeah, I guess the things that it makes a real big difference into, in my mind, are obviously stuff like monstrous infantry and cavalry, but we don't see a lot of it outside of Dragon Ogres, so I'm not overly worried about that right now. But characters with regen, which I hadn't really thought about, because those are the things that could sort of slip through the gaps when it's like, oh, you just passed 2 of your 3 regen saves on your 2 wound character. Sucks. I guess you get to live, and now that's significantly less likely. And then also, for us chariot enjoyers, just get in the bin, I guess.
Yes, he absolutely monsters chariots now. Which, again, you know, Steven Spielberg says that's how it should be. But Yeah, I have felt before that kind of a sense of kind of gut disappointment where he goes into Dragon Ogres and it's like, oh no, he's basically just a guy with a great weapon. And it feels like he
Mm,
should chomp them. So I appreciate there is a flavor win here, but I think maybe it's slightly more than is necessary.
that's fair. That's fair. But Carnosaurs probably, if we had them as a separate thing, also going in A tier as well, I would say.
Yeah, and I think so. These guys, I think they're not going to light the world on fire because they are still ground pounding monsters. They still frenzy themselves. They're still quite fragile in old world terms.
Sure.
Uh, to the things that hunt monsters, they are not as durable as a proper dragon. Uh, but I think before you were kind of trying to when you did have those proper monsters on the table, you were trying to mind game your opponent that they should be scared of the Carnosaur, and now they should actually be scared of the Carnosaur, and that is a big deal.
I've always been scared of the Carnosaur, but recently been playing very mediocre monsters that are expensive but don't
Yes.
actually hit that hard, which is not where you want to be when you're fighting against something that dines on monsters. And it's like, well, if you're not going to
Yeah.
kill my Carnosaur in 2 rounds of combat, I'm going to kill you in 2 rounds of combat.
Yeah. I mean, before I would say it was not zero risk for a dragon to engage the Carnosaur,
Sure.
but you were really trying to make the equation for someone who was switched on, like when I played against Nick at Waltham Forest. It's a question of, do you want to take a risk with your dragon when you don't have to, because
Sure.
any risk with a dragon could lose you the game. Now that balance of risk is maybe more appropriate to the relative cost of the monsters. So this Carnosaur is 400 points, your dragon is 500 points. The risk might be that ratio. You might be taking a 4 in 9 risk that you will die, and you really can't afford to do that because I have an army and you just have dragons.
That's fair. That's fair. Cool. Scarvet. Very similar to the Old Blood, but worse in some ways. Obviously, it's the hero level character. Still has 4 attacks. Only has Armored Hide 1 as opposed to Armored Hide 2, which I find a little bit odd, given that Saurus have Armored Hide.
Yeah, I think that's an oversight. I think Val's probably going off the 8th edition book where there was a pip of armor difference between Old Bloods and Scarvets, but that's because Old Bloods effectively had full plate for skin.
Sure.
Whereas in the Legacy document, they both have the same armor save. So I think Val just needs to harmonize that there, and they should come back to the same save.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the Scarvet is making out just as well as the Old Blood. Obviously, he doesn't quite get as much item allowance, so he can't quite play as many tricks with his save, but he can still get to a much better save than he could before.
Sure.
He's still benefiting greatly from Predatory Fighter. Paymaster's Coin is still available to him. And the being able to be the BSB, Monster Hunter's Tapestry is really interesting on this guy
Sure.
as a Dragon Hunter, because the Stomp is what most dragons really have over a Carnosaur. So if you blank the Stomp, then he really gets to make it about what's better, your Wicked Claws or my Ogre Blade teeth.
Yeah.
You could also put the new expensive banner on him if you wanted. I think that's probably overkill, but I think you've made the point in past things as well, right? For a ridden monster running around with a banner is great. Just have some static res.
Yeah.
Push those thresholds of who wins what combat. And get an 18-inch bubble of BSB, which you don't get from the Slan, and which really helps any Leadership 5 skirmishes you might, for some reason, have on the board.
Yeah. Even just having War Banner on something like that feels pretty compelling in my mind, because you can just run around with the +2 combat res and make up for your lack of attacks.
And the Carnosaur isn't mandatory either, so this guy, because he's less expensive and taking a less restrictive slot, I think he's much more attractive as a cavalry character or as a foot character. I think the cavalry character is quite obvious, where you can use that in Cold One Riders, and he gives them some real punch.
Sure.
The foot character, you can take a flying carpet, and then he can be embedded in the skink cloud. And with his armored hide now, you can get to a better save than you could before.
Sure.
Which is quite important for that character. Or if you are just running blocks of Temple Gardosaurus, just if you've got 90 points to spare and you just want to put 4 Strength 7 AP2 attacks in the front of that unit, you could do far worse.
Speaking of points, I still feel like they are heinously overcosted in terms of what you get. Like I've been comparing them to like orc characters, where an orc just boss is 55 points, and how much better really is a Scar veteran over an orc boss? Realistically, I don't feel like it's significantly better.
He comes with what, 1 extra point of strength, 1 extra attack, maybe less initiative.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter because they're both going rote weapons.
I mean, I think in GW prices that is what you pay for attacks and strength, probably. I think these prices are, like so much legacy stuff, they're just copy pasted straight from the old editions, and I think they do get expensive quite quickly. And the competition at the top end has got tougher. Chaos Lords and Bretonnian Dukes and stuff are tougher than they used to be. When the Scarvet really felt like he was sort of top of the range. I certainly wouldn't mind seeing them come down, but I am not feeling hard done by with where their prices are right now.
Fair.
And I think, like you say, both these guys are going to be A tier. They're going to be competitive staples. They are where you get your high quality damage. Maybe with the exception of some of the monsters that you can get later on. But even then, these are the guys who can hit a weapon skill 5 or 6. These are the guys who can take items to enhance that damage. I think they're kind of a mainstay.
Sure, makes sense. So very quickly, Slan, Saurus Allblood, Saurus Scarvet. Which are you putting at the top of A tier? I'm assuming it's the order that I've got them in already, which is just the order that we've gone through them in.
I think the Slan's at the top because I think I can imagine playing a game without Saurus characters, and I'm probably playing a lower scoring game, but I can still probably wall my opponent out of being able to win. But I think playing a game without the Slan is I'm now trying to adapt to a whole different kind of list.
Sure. All right. Well, let's go through the Skink characters as well. We'll start off with the Skink Chief, which has it unlocked any new options? I think it's got exactly the same options, other than it now has the ability to buy armor, and it has a slightly higher armor save. I think it had a 5 up before, and it's a 4 up now.
Yes, he's got the same. I think he's had the same thing of the scaly skin change. So now he's got 1 point of armored hide, and you can stack it with some armor if you like. So you could even do better here. You could take like the Trailblazer's Hauberk or something and get to heavy armor plus your scaly skin plus a shield. I don't think the Skink Chief on foot is an interesting character really. I think you can scout him or vanguard him, but he has no tools to do anything while on foot. He may lose to a War Machine crew if he charges it.
If he charges it on turn 2 specifically, because you can't charge on the turn you scout.
Yes. But he's not really doing much there. I think his mounts are where the interesting points are. And here, obviously, the option to scout and vanguard gets interesting and maybe a little bit silly in the case of the scouting Stegodon.
I'm assuming that's going to get tidied up.
I think so. So it's not worth talking about too much. In terms of how good he is, it's the baby Stegodon. It's the Strength 5 Stegodon. So you don't get a ton from putting him on it. It's the tankiest BSB you can make. That's the best you can say. Like, he will have toughness 6. He will have 8 wounds. You can give him a 3 up, 5 up.
Well, he default comes with a 3 up because the 4 up armor save plus the armor type.
Yeah.
Which obviously will
actually. So once that's fixed, I don't think you can get him a 3 up because it is the baby steg. And I don't think he can get to a 3 up without changing his troop type.
He can buy outside of the Trailblazer's Hauberk, is there?
No, I don't think so.
Silvered Steel.
Yes, but then he couldn't afford a ward save.
That's true.
So I think he's marginally tankier than a Scar veteran, but he's much worse in many other ways. So I think his most interesting form is on a bird.
Yeah,
on a bird, he's quite interesting. He is about, I think he's 84 points on a Pterodon if the prices haven't changed, and that guy will pretty reliably mess up a War Machine crew if he's got a cavalry spear and he's got the Pterodon to help him out.
Sure.
He can tote around the Ruby Ring, or he can tote around his the Sword of Sorrows. He can have a actual fighting magic weapon, but I don't think that's necessarily very important. And he can go on a Ripper as well, where you really get some juice out of the mount. Obviously, then you get Impetuous, and on either of those mounts, he can join units of those things. He improves their leadership. He helps boost. They're quite small units. It helps boost them, make more robust to panic. He could bring Magic Res 2 into one of those units,
Sure.
Or the Reflect Magic Missiles shield. So
Or
I
a
think
BSP.
they're apart from the fact that he's competing in a very dense character section. I mean, in Old World, everyone is tight up for character points, right? It's not special to Lizardman. Apart from the fact that he is competing with all those other good characters, he's pretty interesting as a sort of 80 to 100 point flying annoyance.
Yeah, I think he's. If you couldn't do fun stuff with your characters, he'd be a lot more interesting to me. But I think you're going to struggle to. Like, I can see you having 80 to 100 points to spare. Like, if you go Slan plus 1 Carnosaur, there's probably points to fit him in.
Yeah,
But it's not like something that you can.
but you probably want at least one Arcane Vassal. So if you're not running a Troglodon,
Sure.
the Skink Priest is eating those last points.
Yeah. So it's hard to fit in. And I think, for me, that puts him in solid as opposed to competitive staple.
I think he'd be somewhere in B. Yeah, I used to run him in before Renegades came out. A lot of my lists had a skink chief with a pterodon and a ruby ring, and he was fine. He was useful. So he's only got better.
Yeah, perfect. Now, we've talked about the Slan. The first of the Arcane Vassals, the Skink Priest. 60 points. Very cheap. Just, you can put it on a mount. You don't have to. Has a 6-inch move. You can just march it 12 inches if you want to fire and forget it. It's, I think, pretty flexible. Yeah,
trading toughness for movement is something that most level 1s would do if they could, right? I think.
Yeah. Most wizards. Like, if you're not in a unit, then who cares? Just reserve move your way around the board or something like that.
Yeah, he does have low leadership, but you should be hopefully not taking too many critical tests on his leadership.
Sure.
He's only got the one mount option, which is the Ancient Stegodon, which is the good Stegodon. And that is also able to unlock the Engine of the Gods, which is still quite nice, although it has changed. I think he, like we talked about before, he's suffered a little bit from the change to Monsoon. I think his range of available signature spells is quite limited that he gets a lot of use out of. And since he's a level 1, that means basically kind of, if you're not doing the lore familiar, he might be struggling to be a good caster on his own, be a useful caster on his own. Good caster, not the point to make when he's level 1, but particularly as he now cannot get a +1 to cast from the Engine of the Gods, he is really just sort of, and since he is the worst user of the Itchy Grub as well, leadership 5, I think, possibly 6.
Leadership 6 on the Skink.
Okay, so he's one more than the core skinks. But yeah, since he's the worst user of the Itchy Grub, he does not have any good way to hit high casting value. So he's looking for one low casting value spell that he can reliably access and cast, and he's lost his access to Monsoon as that spell. So he's maybe he's an Apotheosis heal bot who heals 1 wound. Maybe he's a Glittering Robe guy who makes skinks slightly more annoying, or who sticks out the corner of a Saurus unit and makes them glitter. That's a bad place for him to be. He really doesn't want to be standing there going, those guys over there, try to hit them, not me. I'm weapon skill 2. Weapon skill 2, toughness 2.
Yeah. And with a 6-up save, though.
Yeah. Obviously, Arcane Vassal's still really strong, so I feel like I don't love that he feels now kind of like purely an adjunct to the Slan, but that does seem like something you would take a 60-point Skink Priest just to do, to have a 360 little node that he can float around and cast spells from.
Yeah.
And if he goes in a Stegodon, if you can manage to squeeze that like 335-point beast into your character allowance alongside that Carnosaur and that Slan, which in SBC you can do, then he's keeping 360 because of Howder. and he becomes a really good kind of flex monster that can sort of trundle around, smashing up units, throwing out spells. So I think he's probably a solid A, but he's maybe bottom of A.
Yeah, in my mind, he fits very like the glittering robes skink on foot, 60 points. In my mind, fits in very well with the elementalism temple guard brick, because you don't need -1 to hit on an elementalism temple guard brick. That's not going to really make the difference against a combat force coming to deal with you, because you've already got Earthen Ramparts, right? So you should all
if Earthen Ramparts is up, the stats are irrelevant, right?
You're immune to everything apart from Spectral Doppelganger, but also you've got a really good wizard that's good at dispelling, and you've probably got M2 on there. So like, we're not worried about that. But in a shooting matchup, that's where the Temple Guard, in my mind, feel a bit weak. So having the flexibility of being like, oh, I'm playing against Nuln or something like that, cool. I've got the glittering robes to make it harder to kill me. And then in other matchups, you're like, oh, cool. I guess I just march you 12 inches up the board and fire a Wind Blast and maybe do some funny stuff.
Yeah, just spam Apotheosis on the Carnosaur.
Or that, yeah. not opposed to that at all. Well, I am opposed to that because I'll probably end up playing you again. But as a theory, it makes sense. It's just you specifically shouldn't do it to me specifically.
That's fair enough.
To clarify that one,
I promise not to do it unless I need to.
Are you taking just to check? Are you taking Lizardmen to Saffron Slam? You aren't you in August?
Oh yes.
So
no, the Vampires was a one-off thing.
We may have a rematch there then. So I'll make sure to pester Val to just nerf them into the ground before that point. That's what we need.
Yes.
That's what we need. Cool. All right, characters done. Let's move on to the core. And some of these we want to talk about more, some of them we want to talk about less. Let's start off with the new one, the Skink cohort. You start. I have some concerns.
I'm not 100% sure what to make of them.
Sure.
I think there is a obvious thing you do, which is to take them as the skink equivalent of sort of Skaven rat darts.
Yep.
It is. I think I've seen it referred to as SKU bloat. You have now 2 distinct types of skinks you can take. So you can take 500 points of core that is in 8 units of skinks, and that's a lot of skinks.
Yes, that is my concern. I think they should be like 0 to 4 of all skink units to prevent this from being a problem. Or
I don't think that is the strongest.
Or make them take the.
So I think
Croxigors.
Making them take the Croxigors, I think, would be very flavorful.
Sure.
I don't think the skink spam is going to tear up any tables. I think it's maybe going to really annoy some people. Some people might play it and come away with a really negative impression, thinking, "Oh, that's not Warhammer," which is a valid feeling and something that Renegades should consider.
Sure.
At the same time, what you're basically doing there is playing Legacy Lizardmen before 1.5. Except that your poison does half as much damage, and half your units aren't skirmishers.
And there's no Pillar of Fire against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also you are not currently, if you're playing the kind of the 1.5 Renegade sort of Temple Guard style as I am, you're not currently underspending on core. So where's the core points coming from? Are you going full evasion, no brick? So I feel like that is the most obvious thing you can do with them. It's clearly a very annoying thing you can do with them. It doesn't go into positive play patterns for the game in the way people like to see it played, so I don't like it for that. I do think it's quite interesting that this is now the cheapest static res you can get in the list. By a massive margin. It's like 3 times as cheap as the next cheapest thing. I think you can get a unit that costs 124 points that has 1 Croxigor in it to give it leadership 7.
Nice.
That has full static res. Because I was kind of expecting this to be an open order unit, but it's a close order unit. But it's movement 6, and that will have full static res after a challenge, after a dragon eats the champion in a challenge.
Yep.
And that is what you really want to back up your Carnosaurs and your other monsters is cheap static res. So I think it enables you to not to play more interestingly without Saurus units.
It's also
whether that's something the army needs, whether Saurus need that competition, I don't know. But
I
that's an archetype that exists outside the rat dart.
Yeah, I think that we maybe don't look at Saurus as a limiting factor for what they should be able to do, because Saurus are unfortunately...
When I say Saurus units,
yeah,
when I say Saurus units, I include the Temple Guard there.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Racially Saurus units. I think if you look at the list and your take is, and I don't want to come at it like the way I play is the mathematically solved way, and there's no other way that could be found, because
Sure.
I play most of my test games at tournaments, and I don't actually have that much kind of space to iterate and try out crazy things that are different from the way I usually play. So I feel I'm maybe a little bit in a box. But if you were to say I'm going to really go for a full evasion, full maneuverability style army, I think having those ranked units that can move around quickly and be cheap and expendable, it's a bit like sort of Noblars for Ogre Kingdoms, only movement 6 with full command. So I think that's interesting. I think going Kroxigor for output doesn't make sense. Kroxigor are too expensive and too bad still.
Sure.
So you put three Kroxigor on one of these units, and it gets to the same kind of points level as a unit of Saurus warriors who will kick the shit out of it, and out of anything it would want to fight. But one Kroxigor or 0 Kroxigor and just a fully ranked unit is interesting, and obviously little marching columns are going to be very efficient units. Whether you fit them in, I don't know, but they're very efficient units.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably somewhere in A or B. It's certainly not in C. Don't know what you'd make of that.
I think I would put it at the top of B, which is solid as opposed to competitive staple, because I don't think every list, I don't think it's, given how actually kind of solid the core is for Lizardmen in terms of regular skinks, even going up in points, I think they're still very good. And then the Temple Guard, which enable the slan. I feel like actually they're kind of edged out, but they're also.
I think that would be fair.
Still.
B for that reason. I think, you're not going to take these over the skirmishes.
Sure.
And it costs a little bit more now to max your skirmishes. I think maxing skirmishes to me would be 60, 4 units of 15, and that now went up by 60 points. So that is significantly more expensive.
One of the things I do really like is I've been playing with the dumb marching columns, which is where you go either 4x4 +1 or 5x5 +1, and this is a very appealing dumb scoring unit like that. Javelin shields. I've been doing it. I was last tournament I played. I did it with Dwarf Warriors, back when they were 7 points a model before upgrades. This time 5 points a model. You just take 26 of the little fuckers, and you're like, I guess I'll move 18 inches and get where I need to be. Oh, you want to charge me? Cool. You're going to kill at least one model because I'm T2. Sweet. Well, maybe I win because I've got loads of static combat rats, or I can move up the board to support in some sort of way there.
And you can stand and shoot with those javelins as well.
That's true. Those poison javelins. So even if you're charged by a large target, you can even stand and shoot with 2 whole ranks.
Yeah.
What a treat. What a delight.
Yeah. I am going to have to count my skinks because of this unit and work out if I might need more skinks, which is not something I'd ever thought I'd have to do. So wild. Curse you, Val. That's all I can say.
Have you still got the old school ones with the bows? Not that I think you want to necessarily use the bows, but
I have. I have, and I've been using them as guys with javelins because it's been unambiguous, and now as well, I might need more metal javelin skinks. Curse you, Val.
Curses.
Right. No, it's very cool to see this unit coming back. This was, a unit that was kind of in all the photo pages of the very first Lizardman Army book I had. So I appreciate it coming back.
Yeah.
Even if I may not use it that much.
Yeah. I like to see it. I was like, I'm not sold on this, but it's cool that it's there. I'm glad it exists. I wish Monstrous Infantry was less dogshit. And then we'd maybe see, the actual as intended version. But here we are.
Yeah. The one interesting thing about the Kroxigor in there, apart from just Leadership 7 for the unit, which is I used to use them for that in 8th edition. I would have little darts with 1 Kroxigor because I would then be Leadership 7 and much more resilient to panic.
Yeah.
But the one interesting thing about the Kroxigor in there is the only thing that really cost efficiently pushes skinks around when talking about sort of objective scoring nowadays is heavy cavalry. like core heavy cavalry, and I think core heavy cavalry are going to be small units of core heavy cavalry are going to be a little bit hesitant to charge a unit that has a croc score in it.
True. How does it work in terms of who's in base to base contact? Base to
I think
base.
it's whoever is it. It's the skinks in front of the croc score kind of count as
Yeah.
transparent. So you won't really get more than 3 cavalry bases into contact with that croc score.
Because it'll be on a 50 mil. So yes, any cavalry that's actually going to do damage is on a 30 by 60. So yeah, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
I was wondering
So
for a second if it was
it's,
like the Bretonian Lance thing, where just everyone's in base to base contact with you.
No, thankfully it is written better than the Bretonian Lance, but that's not hard.
No, it is not hard at all. That's true. Okay.
Yeah.
Regular skinks. A little bit of a fall from grace. They've got 20% more expensive, and they're still incredible. And you
S for skink.
Yeah, S for skink.
S for skink. Do we need to say more?
No. I don't think we do. Given how long we're talking about all of the other stuff, it's just like,
Yeah.
They march 12, they shoot, they score, they've got a 5-up armor save, they've got a 4-up armor save in combat. They just kind of have everything. They're aquatic.
They have it all.
Yeah, if there's rivers, they can stand in rivers and get cover now. That's cool. But
they make me shed a tear every time now that with new poison they poison something but fail to wound it. But apart from that, S for skink.
Yes. The last thing that I would say, thoughts on the change on blowpipe, giving them move and shoot. That feels wrong to me.
So the idea there, this is how it used to work in 8th.
Yeah.
In 8th, all skirmishers built in to the skirmish rules, not to the weapon, could march and shoot.
Oh.
And so this was the difference between the weapons, was that the blowpipe could give you double the volume of poison if you ran into short range.
Yeah.
Because of that effect. But the javelin had the kind of more flexible approach and had the armor.
Sure.
And the javelin, and I know that in tournaments in 8th there were people who did play blowpipes to success, so this can be used. I still played javelins in 8th, and I still think javelins are better.
In my mind, a rule that makes more sense there is just to give them quick shot.
Yes, I think I'd prefer quick shot. Also would help them if they get charged.
True.
You could also give them a slightly longer range. I think in 8th they may have had a slightly longer range. It was like 9 inches that you had to get inside, not 6. Running inside 6 inches to shoot when you are leadership 5 and will then have enemy sighted tests to make is a challenge.
Sure.
Obviously, you will take at 12 inches. You could easily be in that range as well, but you will have less far to go to get away. So, I mean, I think this is making the gulf between the javelin and the blowpipe slightly less, but I still think I wouldn't take blowpipes.
There. Jungle Swarms. Minimum unit 3. They have immune psychology. They've got unbreakable. They've got poison attacks. They've got skirmish. Kind of wish they didn't have skirmish. Wish they had sort of open order and make redirecting with them.
Yeah, they could redirect. That'd be more interesting. I think they're down to maybe a C now because the change to poison really hurt them.
Sure.
That was their main thing, that they could throw out a lot of poison attacks.
Yeah.
And now they're poison strength 2 attacks, and that's just not very exciting.
I don't think they're necessarily a bad swarm in that they don't have unstable and they have unbreakable. So they do the job of tying things up. You can still shoot over the top of them. I just don't think that plays into the playstyle of what you want to do. And if you want to bring a screen or something, just bring skinks and leave a very small gap to do your magic missile through. So,
and now you have the cohort, so it's not like you're running up against your combined arms limit and you're just like, oh, what's the next cheap blocking unit I can get? Oh, it's the swarm.
Yeah.
No, now you can have 8 units of skinks.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think. Oh, sorry, no, nothing interesting more to say.
Cool.
Saurus.
Nothing interesting more to say on Saurus Warriors either. They've got Predatory Fighter, so they are slightly more interesting, but I don't think the issue they had was their output.
Yeah, I think they've had a lot of nice things here. They've got the banner allowance they didn't have before.
True.
Which is just, for a unit of infantry that costs as much as they do,
it should be.
That's really important to have.
Yeah.
The option for drilled, which I don't know whether I think flavor-wise they should have, but it's certainly nice to have. It helps a unit like that get around. I think in a vacuum, this is a very solid, heavy infantry unit now, but that's not a very valuable role without certain context around it. And it's pushed out more by the fact that there is a very expensive heavy infantry unit that I want to take,
Yep.
and I can't afford the two of them together.
Yep.
So I would say I would put Renegade 2.0 Saurus in bottom of B. I would say this is a unit that I cannot complain about. I just have no reason to use. And if I were playing a slanless list, I could use it as my kind of like brick that's going to go and give me static res on a special feature. And it will cost probably half what the Temple Guard brick will cost with the points adjustments that have been made. And it will do the same job of not giving away a ton of kill points while the monsters do the work.
Will it cost half as much? Because it's only 3 points less per model. Or are you talking about the fact that you're not also putting characters in there?
I am going to take fewer of them, and I'm not going to load it up with items and stuff. So if it's Saurus, I'm going to do one of those stupid marching columns that you speak about and do 17 Saurus.
Love that.
This is their heavy infantry. And I'm going to, just give them the Monster Hunter's Tapestry. Jobs are good in. And that unit will cost under 300 points for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe around 250.
Every time I look at Saurus,
Temple Guard unit,
they're close to being interesting, but it's just there's so much layered on them, and there's the points cuts, and they're still not there. If the meta changes significantly, then maybe.
I've warmed hugely on Saurus, even though I still don't play them, because I took them to BCGT, which was a non-renegade event, and they took a unit of 17, and 1.5 did of the core rules did a bit for them, giving them the parry save and so on. And I had a game against Ian Payton, which I'll remember as long as I live, where the 17 Saurus got into combat in the perfect formation against a block of 70 skeletons, and they went absolutely insane. And that's their ideal day in the park, because once you kill the front rank, the ones behind don't have any parry saves. They're just archers, and their weapon skill 2, and the Saurus are just going crazy. And at one point, the Tomb King on the dragon came over and tried to intervene, and the Saurus just beat the skeletons so hard that he got pushed back. And they did kill that unit of 70 skeletons, which often you see those units on the board and you think that is just a piece of terrain. I can't interact with that. But no, the Saurus were like challenge accepted, and so I think Saurus in this version at this very reasonable price point, they're a decent unit. They're just not a unit that really fits the rest of the list.
Yeah. I'll keep that in mind. If I ever need to build to beat a unit of 70 skeleton cohort with minimal front rank and maximal back rank, which is, to be fair, that's how it normally goes. But then also, by the sounds of it, without any supporting characters that matter. Because if it had the classic Royal Herald and King with Ogre Blade, or even just like a Prince, like a few characters lining the front, and then like a Glittering Robes caster in there as well with poison attacks, I feel like that goes pretty badly for the Saurus.
I think so. There was the poison thing was in there, and there was, I think, a level 1 in there, but the Saurus just ate him like a Slim Jim. And after that, it was no support apart from that dragon.
Yeah. That is a list that you can play, but you have to be pretty specific in how untouchable you make those bricks.
Yes,
because they're not going anywhere.
Yes, no. Ian was not playing a fully optimized cutthroat list. He was playing a very fun list with an Ogre Blade guy on the dragon, passing all his damage to a Chariot Herald, and it was. I always love playing Ian, one of the nicest men in Warhammer, and it was a great game.
Perfect. So you think bottom of B tier, bottom of solid instead of weak?
I think so. I think.
All right.
It's not that they're weak. It's just that they don't have a place.
Sure. I'm going to say
one of the biggest blow-ups.
Yeah. I was going to say I think I disagree. Just even like outside of the context.
If you would say C, I think that's fair.
Plays Lizardmen.
I won't object.
I've got to, given that I haven't beaten you at a tournament yet, I don't think in good conscience I can move it down. So I'm gonna bow to your.
I know. I think go. I would say go ahead, put them in C, because we need to use our full range of numbers here, or letters.
Sure.
There's going to be things better than them that we can put in B.
Fair enough. Speaking of better than them, Temple Guard. It's Saurus, but good.
The cooler Daniel. Yeah. Stubborn built in. The armor upgrade is great.
Mm.
Makes them more resilient to shooting, which is like you're saying is a big problem for a unit that is very expensive, maybe low on body count.
And maybe use the halberds at some point now.
Yes, yes. Having a 4-up save and getting your halberds out means you might actually hurt something.
Yeah.
That's always been one of their bad points. So you kind of like you throw a bunch of dice and then they take 0 wounds. The thing you're trying to hit, not the temple guard. The drilled is really nice because one of their Achilles heels is getting around the board.
Sure.
And this just mean you can go 12 inches rather than 8 inches on turns you're not being pressured. You don't have Seed of Shadows or anything to really exploit it with, but you can Arcane Urgency if you want to. I think they still have the kind of the dwarf problem of however far you can conveyance them theoretically, you can conveyance them until there's something in their way.
Yeah.
Then they can't charge more than about 8 inches once they get to where they're going. So they're still infantry. But yeah, they're very tough if the Slan buffs them up, and they've got access to an exciting new banner.
That's true.
The improved Sun Standard of Chotek. So I tried this yesterday. I tried double stacking this with Glittering Robe, and I thought I'm going to be a big brain boy. I'm going to take the Arcane Familiar, and I'm going to take 4 spells on Battle Magic, and I'm going to get Oaken Shield at the same time. I will be destructible. And I rolled 4 spells on Battle Magic, and I got Curse of Forgot to do your tax returns, Curse of Stubbed Your Toe. I think I did get Arcane Urgency, but I did not get Oaken Shield. I did not get Fireball.
Yeah.
And Slan was basically just a Glittering Robe bot, and it felt so bad.
The second you started that story, I was like, oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, I'm not doing that again.
No.
I think the opportunity cost to do that double stacking is actually really high.
Yeah.
But even if you don't have Glittering Robe, which you could get from a Skink Priest as well, like you say, it's a really nice extra passive layer of defense because you don't your best defenses with the laws that you might take, being Earthen Ramparts and Walk Between Worlds, neither of those can be active when you charge. This is something that lets you charge and not be like fully letting your guard down. So I think it helps the unit be aggressive. It helps the unit survive. It makes the unit incredibly expensive. Because before I was kind of I was playing more defensively with them, and if you want to be aggressive, you have to have a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? A little bit more fat on the bones. Be prepared to take a few more casualties.
Sure.
So the unit gets bigger. You pay for the drilled. You pay for the banner.
Yep.
Now it's maybe 100 points more expensive than it was before. I think it's still a pretty worthwhile unit in that shape.
Yeah, I think so. I think this competitive staple would be my assumption. Obviously, it leans into the way that you like playing the Lizardmen.
Yeah, I will never willingly take my Temple Guard off the table. Legacy document forced me to, but I really like putting that unit on the table, and I think you put something on the board that the opponent cannot kind of just blow away. Anything else in the roster, there is an army that will eat it out there.
Yeah.
With a Temple Guard, the Temple Guard are only going down if the opponent kind of plays the game, not if they just turn up.
Yes.
And I think they're the only unit in the roster that can do that, and they enable you to kind of play a more equal game when there are parts of your army that are afraid, and they enable you to play for smaller losses when you are really outmatched.
Sure. Yeah, you can play like very heavy points now. That unit's going to be 1,000 points by the time you've got the Slant and the Temple Guard. So it's really hard to die.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't mess up, that unit's probably not dying. So at minimum, you're like, what, 15-5, worst case scenario? And also it's going to stand on an objective or something like that. So you're in a good spot.
Yeah. It particularly in a heavy objective plays, like it can be really important to have a unit that won't move.
Yeah.
I've played Cathay a few times with my lizards, including before the nerf, and the Temple Guard are the one unit that's never died.
Nice.
They didn't have a bunch of bombs dropped on them because the balloons were busy killing everything else.
Sure.
But you with drilled, you can go super wide. You can make yourself cannon proof ish. Sure. You can
cannon resistant.
Yeah, and it's the Slan. I think the Slan's magic is the most impactful on this unit, and you really are looking for a place where the Slan's magic is going to be as impactful as possible to justify its cost.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm an unapologetic lover of like big dumb infantry, so I want to see that on the table. Like when I'm thinking about when I'm in between armies, and I'm like, is there an army that I can just like take a brick of actually like decent combat infantry? That's why I've stayed with the Chorfs for so long, because I was playing Black Orcs and they felt really good, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to do something new. Renegade dropped. I'm like, okay, I'm going to play like a brick of infantry supported with one combat character. I'm going to just see if it works out. So I want to see more of that on the table.
Yeah. I was trying to dream up a Death Star of Temple Guard that would work on its own, that wouldn't just be a backup system for monsters. And I almost convinced myself that I could do something. I think you put an Old Blood in the front rank.
Okay.
And you give him and you load the unit up with magic rares, the reflector magic missile shield.
Yep.
And then you give that Old Blood, and you do the double littering robes, the double -1 to hit stack.
Mm-hmm.
And you give that Old Blood, Paymaster's Coin, the potion of plus D3 attacks.
Yep.
The magic rares 2 ward save.
Sure.
And then he is going to pop off with something like he's going to pop himself up to sort of 7 attacks base. And then he's going to re-roll and he's going to generate more attacks. So he's going to put out something like 10 strength 7 AP2 attacks with full re-rolls to hit on his go turn. Mm-hmm. And if you can arcane urgency that unit around the board, maybe from your lore familiar Itchy Grub Troglodon who's following behind to hit up, then I think it can really smash some stuff up because he's so hard to hit with the buffs the unit is giving him.
Sure.
Unfortunately, 10 skinks stand in front of you and you can't go anywhere, and that's when I kind of fell out of love with that idea. But in a world where people just let you charge them, it's great.
It's the classic Dwarf King problem, right? You're like, okay,
yeah.
So I've got this unit of Longbeards with a Dwarf King, and like it wins combat into like everything in the game with my Rune of Smiting, and they're like, wait, but nobody charged me. Why is nobody charging me? This isn't fair.
Yep.
Unfortunately, you can't do the dumb stuff. I'm trying to make dwarves work at the moment. I'm like, but what if I took a unit of Longbeards and every model in the front rank had a gun? What if that was a thing? So stay tuned to see if I can make something out of that. Obviously, you can't do that with Lizardmen, so you've lost all of the sort of utility that I'm thinking about in that regard.
Yeah. The Slan can kind of be a magic missile battery, but not much of one.
I think with the Slan, great, because not only do you have all of the stuff like the defense, because that's what they're lacking. It's all well and good to be like, oh, it's you can take it without the Slan, but as soon as you lose that earthen ramparts, suddenly it's just an infantry unit. And like, it's all well and good to be like, oh, I've got a lord in the front. What if I charge you with 2 dragons?
Yeah, but no, I think the smartest way to think about it is it's an anchor, not a hammer. It's keeping points safe, and it's protecting that bubble of leadership and spellcasting that's enabling the rest of the list. The rest of the list still needs to do the work. The Temple Guard are there to kind of be their moral support and play more positionally than sort of smash.
Perfect. All right, that's good timing because we're going to move into special, which is the other units that are going to do the work. We're going to start off with Chameleon Skinks.
Yes.
And I'm going to say, actually, I don't think they fit into lists very often, but I really like them because it's a cheap ambushing scoring unit that just comes on and is generally a pain in the backside to deal with. Obviously, they can get magic missiled off the board, but they're -2 to be hit by shooting, which is fun. Yeah.
Not scoring, right? Because they're special.
Sorry, when I say
unless the FAQ.
Yeah, I'm thinking in terms of scoring. I'm talking about like baggage trains and stuff, but that's very
baggage train. Yes, very good cabbage snafflers. Also, if you can roll your ambush rolls,
yes,
is a really nice unit against cannons now
Ooh, okay.
because you're evasive. So you can come on with your march and shoot blowpipes. You can come into 12 inches of the cannon, shoots 20 poison shots at it.
Uh-huh.
It turns around and grape shots you. You evasive out of grape shot range, and then next turn you do it again.
Of course, you can't march when you come on, remember. So you can only move 6
No, sorry.
and do that, which is probably still fine.
6, so which may be a little bit challenging with how skirmishes form up with a large unit, but you wouldn't need to be that large, particularly if you've been maybe chipped that cannon for something before. Poison's very spiky fighting war machines.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a unit that can sit on a cannon and not get grape shot off, so it requires somebody else to come deal with it, which I think is pretty neat. I also have struggled to fit it into lists so far, but it is quite inexpensive, so maybe there'll be some openings and I'll be able to try them out.
Yeah, it kind of fits that same spot that the Sneaky Gits hit, and I'm like, oh, I love Sneaky Gits. Why wouldn't I love Chameleon Skinks?
Yeah, but I think they're looking like a B. I haven't tried them out. It might take me a while to try them out.
I think I like them like as cheap sort of utility pieces in the B tier. I like the Skink Chief more, but I do like the Chameleon Skinks. And I think the cohort's probably the best of the 3 choices in there because it's core. So, like, that makes sense.
It's probably easier to find points for Chameleon Skinks than for a Chief because it's coming out special, not.
That's true. Okay. Yeah. It doesn't like in the tier doesn't matter too much, but I'm going to move them across the 2. Very quickly, Croxigors. Do you have any redeeming points for the nearly 50-point unit of monstrous infantry?
No. They got full plate and Predatory Fighter. They're better than they were before. They're still bad and still sad.
Yeah.
I broke my heart trying to write a full Croxigor list a long time ago, thinking, I can charge through Skinks and Skinks are good. I'm gonna be so annoying. And then I found out, but then when I do that, I still lose. I think that will still happen.
I agree. What I will say,
Val, please take their points down.
Yes, they need to lose a chunk. At least they are 4-up armor save. Something that I've been saying for like the whole edition is that monsters need a secondary save to have value because things are just too squishy, especially like as we see more and more cannons. And I feel like Croxigors, like monstrous infantry, are kind of in that spot. But at some point, you're just like, that's a good enough armor save that maybe that's just okay. And I think a 4-up armor save is verging on that point for me. But the points.
Yeah. The way I've talked about it is, I think all monstrous infantry are in a bad spot in general, excepting a very few, because Old World's not a game where rank and file hurt the valuable stuff by hitting it. Rank and file have lots of useful things they can do, but throwing attacks isn't really one of them unless you have stacking of crazy buffs and stuff. Usually to crack other people's Death Stars, not to crack their characters. You really can't damage characters very well with rank and file. And I feel like you have 2 archetypes with regular infantry. That's a unit that does not die and delivers static res. With cavalry, that's a unit that picks its fights and bullies things that it can kill.
And also theoretically reduces combat res.
Yes. Monstrous infantry are a unit that tries to do damage but cannot pick its fights. So they are trying to do the thing that rank and file cannot do, and they are not getting away from the bullies that are coming after them. So I think they kind of get it coming and going. And I think Croxigor are no exception to that.
Yeah. This is not.
If they were cheap, they would be a reasonably interesting auxiliary to just be like guarding the Skinks.
Yes,
but they had to be so cheap for that to be interesting because the Skinks don't need that much guarding.
I think I want to see them come down in points, mostly so I can see them in Skink cohort. That's like the main value of them for me in this draft.
Yeah, and that's kind of the most flavorful place to see them in a way.
Yeah, I've this is not a conversation for now, but I've been becoming increasingly something I called net output pilled, where I'm like, I don't actually care what the damage is, but I care about your combat res differential that you can bring. I've been thinking about that a lot in terms of like denying combat res and stuff, but that's maybe one for when we see each other next time we go for dinner in August. We can have that chat.
Yes.
Doesn't need to be right now. We're on to Ripidactyl Riders though, and these things fuck. We're talking about combat res. They just do damage. Like, have you done the numbers on them? If you have hatred from the toad up and you have the extra attack, your unit that starts off with 3 attacks gets up to, I think it's 4.5 hits on average if they're in range of the Troglodon.
With the Troglodon following them and screaming, just shouting encouragement.
And that's before we even get to the cavalry spears.
Yeah.
Maths.
Yeah. You can get like 30 attacks or something out of this unit. Strength 4 AP2, which is pretty crazy.
It's not bad.
I think, is there a better idea for a rule in all of Warhammer than a skink smuggled a toad into your pocket and now they're hungry for the toad? I don't know. The thing I think with this unit is it's still kind of a one-shot missile. Once it leaves the general's leadership range, it's impetuous leadership 5, toughness 3, 4 up armor, 2 wounds. So it's going to disappear the second anything survives to hit it back, or the second anything shoots it. I think that output could rip through appropriately some quite valuable targets, but it will bounce off the hardest targets. It's not something like the Pegasus Star where apply directly to forehead. You have to. You're going to have to pick your fights, and they've got a rule that stops them picking their fights.
Well,
so I feel like this is a unit that
they also just fly far enough that you can just be really aggressive with them, assuming you're not playing into shooting, which is where they fall down. But there's very good defensive capabilities in the book, right? You can give them the -1 to hit banner. You can give them the mirror shield. You can give them magic resist, assuming you're bunkering a character in there. This is like, in my head, if you're doing this, you're giving them a skink BSB support, probably. So you can do a lot of stuff with that if you want to do it. So you kind of just like full send them so that when you fail your impetuous on the next turn, you've got 3 units to pick from for charging.
Yeah, but then you are counting on your opponent having a unit that cannot get away as the one you want to fight.
Fair.
Which I don't think is a given. And if you take an example, like suppose you're in that matchup where you don't have shooting that's going to oppress you.
Sure.
For example, Warriors of Chaos. And suppose the Warriors of Chaos player has Steed of Shadows, or he has a cavalry army, and he just wiggles those units out of your charge, except his dragon.
Yep.
He just plops that in front of you, and then you've just given away that unit, which is going to be expensive. If you
got 37 attacks per model, and you're wounding on 5s because they're only a T5 dragon. So I think Ripidactyls take them.
But you're a skirmisher, so you're going to form up 3 wide.
4. Oh, no, wait, no, hold on. No, it is only 3. Okay, so 37 attacks each. You're only doing...
You have 12 attacks.
Well, I mean, it's still pretty good. It's 111 attacks. Not a serious point, obviously. I think that is a fair concern that you have.
Yeah. So I tried to use Rippers in the Legacy document, and I had this experience of basically like I was being very careful with my positioning. I'm like, I'm only going to come forward. I can see that sorcerer's unit over there. I'm going to go for him, and then my opponent just like, all right, Steed of Shadows, and he's chosen. Oh, I can see them now. Oh, I failed the leadership test. Bye, Rippers.
Yep.
And I think they'll still do that. So I think you can keep them by the slan, and then they will fail only like 1 test in 20.
Sure.
And as long as you have a target that is just going to be a straight shot from that 12-inch bubble, then you can control them. But I think that's not really getting the value out of their flying. So I see them as a great unit as a small, inexpensive unit that is going to hit way above its points bracket, but is not going to try and pick the big fights.
Fair.
And I would still have concerns there about them like giving away free overruns and reforms to things that I don't want to give those to, but that's a more manageable thing. I would not see them as something where you like put the BSB with the Totem of Wrath in there, because then I think that is going to be a very expensive unit that is going to die most of the time.
Fair.
But yeah, I think they're probably not in every list, but they are going to be pretty strong for their points. I think they're going to give some people shocked face when they do rip through the unit that has the toad in its pocket. And those inexpensive units, if you have multiples of them, you get multiple toads, and toads work for every unit. It's not one toad, one unit.
Yeah.
So the more rippers, the more rippy you get.
I think one of the things that I can do reasonably well is understand where my blind spots are, and units that bring multiple of a buff, as in like each unit you bring, that gives you like an extra marker or something you can place down. I definitely have like a bit of a blind spot for, because in my head, miners should still be good in X-Force, where you put down the tunneling token, and you're like, but I've got 3 of them, so I can put down so many tokens, I can come out where I want. And then you look at the unit, and like, objectively, it's actually not that good. So where do you want to put this, given that I feel like I might be overrating them?
I think B.
Sure.
They're definitely not in C. I don't think they're quite at the level of like the things we've put in A so far.
Sure. Cool. All right. Well, there's the mirror then, the Pterodon Riders, which have had a pretty juicy buff. Their rocks are now AP1 as opposed to AP0, which I looked at on paper and I was like, I actually think this doesn't matter much. Because the things that I think I want to put rocks into, and obviously it's not every game that you're going to get this, and it's nice to have the increased utility of being able to color the stuff. But it's like, I want to threaten wizards, and I want to threaten skirmishers that I can't hit with ballistic skill shooting because they're hard. Neither of those things have high armor, so I'm not sold that it makes, like, I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm just not sure that it's as big of a buff as it maybe seems on paper.
It's definitely nice to have. You know what skirmishers is Pegasus Knights. I think Bretonia hates Strength 4 AP1. But I think this unit has had such an improvement. Before, they were kind of like a very nothingy positional annoyance unit.
Sure.
The rocks was their one thing that they had that was quite good. And apart from that, they were just bases that could fly, basically.
Sure.
They couldn't kill a War Machine crew in combat. So they've got +1 attack. Now they probably will kill a War Machine crew in combat. They probably even beat a Cathay Cannon because it's going to be 6 Strength 4 attacks against the 1 Ogre and the 3 guys. Sure. So they're doing that job with War Machine Hunters, which is critical for the list. It's where Lizardmen really struggle, where they really want something that will do that job. So I think they're doing that as well, or perhaps better than Chameleon Skinks. The rocks are getting better, and the rocks were already pretty good. And the File Leech Bolus means that now, for a pretty marginal cost, this missile cavalry unit has a meaningful missile attack.
Yes.
Which it did not have before. I think this is an issue that any kind of monstrous missile cavalry has to reckon with. Like, how do you make shooting interesting from so few models shooting?
Yes.
And I think it would be very original. Pterodons had 2 riders for this reason. You got 2 bow shots. But this is kind of like Dragonfire Bombs light. It feels pretty good. I think a unit of 3 or 4 of these could find its way into a lot of my lists, just for the flexibility it brings. And I think you could lean into it more heavily, and you could do, like I was saying, Slan on Elementalism, who's going to make those rocks AP3, then a lot of Pterodons, then you're going to bomb something very hard on the go turn. Sure. If you had a Troglodon who was giving you Arcane Urgency, or a Skink Priest who was giving you Arcane Urgency with a Power Scroll, then you can send those rocks 40 inches. So the big weakness of this unit is obviously it's one of those flying units that has no ground movement. So there's lots of ubiquitous anti-fly items out there, and you are going to have a turn when you're grounded, possibly 2 turns when you're grounded if you're playing one of the lucky factions that have their own custom one as well.
Sure.
But it's a missile unit, so you can be patient, you can wait that out, and then you can try and choose your moment. And if you are going for the more inexpensive unit, you can just be in their backlines, annoying them, getting rid of their skirmishers, helping your skinks win the skirmish war, picking off their war machines. I think this is in A for me, when it was previously probably down in C.
Yes.
Well, no. We did a legacy tier list. People can check if my memory is correct.
That makes sense to me. I do like the changes. I'm not sold that drop rocks is much of a buff, but I think the thing that I like the most is they're up to a 4-up armor save, whereas previously,
Yes, yeah, oh yeah, I completely forgot that. Yeah, which is really big for a unit that's pretty
mm,
fragile.
yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Um,
Speaking of things that were maybe a little bit fragile, Cold One Riders. Weird spot.
yeah, 2-up armor saves pretty nice for them.
Yeah. I
I still
also,
feel they're too expensive for what they bring.
yeah. So if you look at them and you compare them to the various heavy cavalry, the obvious one you can compare them to is like Cold One Knights from Dark Elves. I don't think they should be compared there. I think we should be comparing them to Boar Boys. I think that is more the space that they fill. They've got T4. They had a 3-up armor save. They have like a mediocre amount of punch, but they're, if they're appropriately costed, you feel good about running them because you're like, oh hey, yeah, I've got volume of mediocre attacks that hits moderately hard. They're a little uncontrollable, impetuous or stupidity. I think that's the spot that I see them in, and trying to boost them up to be actual full 2-up save shock cavalry doesn't really fit the how I see them working.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 2-up save you really only see in old world on the cream of the crop, right? You don't
Sure.
you Chosen Knights, Inner Circle, Demigryphs, Blood Knights. So there's definitely kind of a steer from the game that 3-up is the new 2-up for cavalry.
Sure.
I think they do want to be occupying that less expensive space because while they've got cavalry spears and weapon skill 4 and initiative 2, they're never going to compete with the top tier shock cavalry. I think they really struggle to make a dent in stuff that has sort of toughness 4, 3-up armor, decent weapon skill, because they'll be hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, native AP 1. You can put the Totem of Wrath on there, but then you're only kind of getting to where a lance would be for free.
It's a crutch,
so to speak. Yeah. You've got the volume from your mounts, but it's AP nothing. So what they're screaming out is, throw me into a ball pit of chaff, throw me into a big unit of skeletons or goblins, and there's gonna be bits everywhere. But they're punching down. Val's given them countercharge, but with initiative 2, they're going to strike after any cavalry that they countercharge, regardless. Maybe Boar Boys might actually match them, but
3.
Apart from that, okay. So yeah, unless there's a heat rock nearby to boost them up, they are going to be striking second. So it's countercharge is only activating their cavalry spears, which against cavalry are going to be punching into high armor. So they're getting hit from multiple angles of disadvantage anytime they try and fight enemy elites. So you don't, I think, want to be trying to tool them up into this really expensive killer unit.
Sure.
The only effective way that you can is you just use them as a vehicle for the Saurus characters, which you can do. And then if you've got a Scar veteran or an Old Blood in the front who is being boosted by the Totem of Wrath, he will clear out that unit that's giving you trouble, even if it would punish the unit that he's in. And he's hard to target because he's on that's one narrow base, and he's hopefully going to do some work. But I don't think there's that much sort of operational space for a unit like that in the game as it stands. I think you won't out cavalry the cavalry armies. Not that there are that many cavalry armies. It won't fight monsters well. And the big infantry Death Stars are generally too big to be broken by a single cavalry charge.
Yes.
You might crumble some undead, but that's maybe the best application you'll get.
Yeah. I think, like, I'm going to double down. I'm just going to say make them Boar Boys. They don't have to be as cheap. Like a Boar Boy with all the trimmings, because it starts at 15 points a model. That's very cheap. You go up to 20 points by the time you've given them Cav Spears, Heavy Armor, Shields, and Big Guns to get them up to the equivalent, so they're Strength 4 in combat before they Cav Spears. Obviously, you also then have Choppers, which is your reroll 1s to wound, but also the extra AP. Predatory Fighters on the cold ones is nice, but I think I'd rather have, I definitely have the rerolls than the AP. But if you get them down to that, maybe just in the realm of like 22 to 25 points, something along those lines. Yeah, that's a drastic change.
You do have, over the Boar Boys, you've got Leadership 8 Cold-Blooded. And you've got
but they don't have stupidity.
Yeah, but Leadership 8 cold-blooded, you'll fail maybe 1 in 10,
Sure,
and Impetuous Leadership 7, you'll fail a lot more, I
sure.
think. And the other thing is the cold one is a lot better than the pig.
I'm not sure I'd say it's a lot better because on the charge, because your Biggins applies to the pig as well. You also get AP1
Mm,
on your single attack from the pig on the charge. So you've got 1 strength
yeah,
4 AP1 attack or 2 strength 4 AP0 armor being 1. So it is obviously better, but I actually think it's not as much of a
it's not
disparate.
crazy better, yeah,
Mm,
but it is a little bit better. So I think this is kind of like in terms of its identity, it's a slightly more elite unit than Ball Boys, but I agree
I
it's
agree.
not Cold One Knights, and it shouldn't try and be Cold One Knights. I think I played around with quite a bit with this in previous tournaments at TSN in Renegades 1.5, and using them with a Scar veteran, buffing them with high magic. Fury of Cain is really funny on these guys. Will be funnier with Predatory Fighter and Workable Troglodons.
Given the frenzy banner as
Um,
well.
yeah, let's go crazy. Um, they they've maybe got more of a ceiling for synergy than Ball Boys as well. Although
Mm,
Greenskins have so many great
no.
banners. If
Yeah.
you could get the banner of butchery or the errantry banner on this unit and get like strength 6 guys and strength 5 cold ones,
Yep.
oh,
Yeah. That's really good.
uh,
War just built in on their
yeah,
characters. You're talking about putting a 90
yeah,
point plus mount character in. What if I put a 55 point plus mount character in
yeah,
who
yeah,
brings static
um,
combat res plus rerolls plus just output as well?
yeah. So yeah, I think it's a unit that wants, I think, like narratively and intuitively, it wants to sit at a slightly higher price point than Ball Boys, but it doesn't want to be up in this 40-point top tier cavalry range. It wants to be down where you can fit this unit in as an auxiliary, not as something you're building the army around.
Sure. Yeah, like I'm not. It's very easy to identify what's wrong, and I think it's a decent suggestion to drop them in points and try and put them in that ball range. I'm saying
Yeah,
22 to 25, actually nailing where they should be. That's difficult. I'm going to leave that
yeah,
to other people who hopefully playtest it. But my gut feel is that
yeah,
is the sort of range I'd want to see them in.
yeah. I think even if they were just like currently it's 40 points with all the trimmings, I believe.
Something
Drilled,
along those lines. Yeah.
2-up save. If they were 35 points,
But with the
that
two
would
up save
be
still.
you. I guess. Well, yeah. So the 2-up save is a 4-point upgrade.
Correct.
So if the base 3-up platform, with no need for the 2-up save upgrade, was, I guess that would be 31 points.
Mm.
That'd be an interesting unit. Lizardmen, cavalry, I think is, I talked before about armies having identifiable strengths that they underpay for, and I think they also have weaknesses that they overpay for. And I think cavalry is a traditional Lizardman weakness.
Sure.
They're meant to be Mesoamerican, so they're kind of not a traditional cavalry army. So I think that's expressed in the fact that they don't have lances.
Mm-hmm.
It's expressed in the fact that there's this kind of gulf between movement 7 Swift Stride being the fastest they've got on the ground, and then they've got their aerial cavalry, which is given a bit of speed in the air. But so I don't hate them not being like top of the cavalry competition, but I do think right now they're in the wrong spot for the roster.
Yeah. I'm thinking we're going to drop them in weak, and I'm going to round out my point on the last thing in terms of the cavalry comparison. Obviously, this is a very apples to oranges. Wild Riders with shields, 27 points per model. And that makes me so sad.
And Wild Riders will body the Cold
yeah.
One Riders.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
Obviously have their own issues, don't get me wrong.
Yes, the Cold One Riders will survive a single fireball better.
Especially if you're a moron and you forget to put shields on your list for the event that you're streaming while playing
and the Wild Riders aren't going to make it into the Cold One Riders because some skinks are going to frenzy bait them turn 1. But apart from that,
as a white paper, theoretical argument, then the Wild Riders are much more appealing. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. We're now into the big stuff. And the first the big stuff, and something I know you enjoy, the Bastillodon.
Yeah,
no, should we talk Stegodons first? Because I think it all keys off the Stegodon, actually.
Sure. Yeah.
The engine of the gods.
Stegodon's definitely improved. So Stegodon has justice for its impact hits at last.
Mm,
Not just AP2 impact hits, AP3 impact hits.
spicy.
Yeah, I think this is a great change because the Stegodon is really meant to be a sort of intimidating, battering ram monster.
Mm-hmm.
It had this oversight, that's what I'll call it, of no AP on its impact hits because you need custom rules to give you that in old world if you're not a chariot. And so the combo it had of D3 plus 1 impacts and D3 plus 2 stomps was actually basically just D3 plus 2 stomps. Now it's going to really make a mess of any unit it goes into, even through the Monster Hunter's Tapestry. That's now a non-negligible amount of automatic hits at a high strength, high AP. Mm-hmm. Which is a just reward if your movement 6 non-Swift Stride monster gets to complete a charge.
Exactly. So this is not unbreakable, so you can't use it in the way that I have been using, the Iron Demon. So it's not like just a freebie, I put it in front of something and then just grind forever. Sure, it's got stubborn, that's fine. But, it's a chariot. Have I, at any point this edition, gone, man, chariots, so overpowered. I wish they didn't do so much damage when they got that pesky charge off on me with their 12 to 13-inch declarable charge range.
Yeah, it's very much you're getting what you deserve. I think so. They've gone up to 6 wounds, which feels great. Their armor save's gone up, that feels great. They've gone down to a sort of more reasonable points level on the base chassis, which feels great. It's quite comparable now to kind of like a Tomb King's Sphinx. Still probably a worse monster than the Necrosphinx, but it's kind of doing its lizard job, and it's gonna maybe survive an extra cannon shot. It's going to hurt more when it goes in. So I think if you're playing the basic one, it's going to feel reasonably solid. Not as good value as something like a gigantic spawn, but it can trundle around and it can smash stuff.
Yeah, we're talking about the young Stegodon here, aren't we?
The young Stegodon or the ancient Stegodon, either one without the Engine of the Gods.
Right,
I think
understand.
The young Stegodon, strength 5, still not worth not taking the upgrade.
Yes.
Obviously, Val did put the young one into special, which means that you can theoretically spam a bunch of them. If you really want to do, I think, like a wall of T6 is the phrase that's been used, then you could do that.
If you're living in a world where you don't want to spend 1,000 points on characters, you can bring worse stuff.
Yeah, but I think this to me is kind of where monsters in old world should be.
Yes.
This feels about right in terms of how it performs against rank and file, and characters are their own problem.
Yeah.
The Engine of the Gods is interesting. It's kind of now it buffs. Now it's got one change that I like a lot, which is it gains the kind of casket ward save without the broken casket -1 to hit aura. Again, it's going to help your monsters survive versus cannons. It's going to give your Skinks and Temple Guard a little bit of a tune-up when they don't have other ward saves from other magic. It turns off if you fire the blast, so there's some decision-making to do. I think that's just fine.
Yep.
Very mild little spell there. Its +1 to cast effect has been changed to +1 to bound spells. And that to me is kind of obviously saying, put me near your solar engines.
Sure.
Solar engines aren't, I think, the most busted thing in the game, and having them cast a bit more reliably isn't going to see Lizardmen like rocketing to the top tables. But I do think that is like a 770 point combo of units,
Sure.
3 solar engines and a engine, and I'm not sure there's anything better in the roster. So it kind of writes your army for you. It says take 200 or 300 points out of your 1k of characters. Put this in 500 points of core. You're done. And I think that's less interesting than it was before, where it was kind of giving the Skink Priest some play. I can understand Val being allergic to giving the Slan a passive +5 to cast.
Yeah.
But as we said before, I can do a +7 when it matters. So I think
to be clear,
that's
I'm
maybe
also
not worth
to that.
Yeah, that should change as well. But so I don't think that mark has been properly met either.
Yeah.
And I think there are other ways you can go that fulfill both conditions.
So I talk about this in my video because I did a little bit at the start of the video where I was like, this is where actually I think casting should go. I'm expecting to see casting changes in the FAQ. I don't want to go too much into detail because I've talked about it already, but just to reiterate for you, I think the bound spell should be changed so that you're casting them on a 6 on the dice. You shouldn't have more than a +2 to cast a bound spell default. Like, just make it so that it's like, you're rolling a 6.
Make it so it's an 8 to cast.
You're getting it off, what's that, like 60-something% of the time. So 2/3 of the time, give or take, on a 6 on the dice, outside of magic resist, outside of anything else. Great. That's perfect. I think that would work out nicely for where I think sort of casting should be. And then what I said was for the Engine of the Gods, I just went and looked at previous editions. I was like, hey, this thing where you reduce the casting value of a lore, what if you just made it so the bound spells have their casting value reduced by 1? You don't make them better, but you make them more consistent.
Yeah. Or make them do that for normal magic and leave the bound spells alone.
Sure.
Because there you have a thing where you're giving the Skink Priest that ability to cast more spells. You're letting the Slann use the engine, but it's not making it harder for you to dispel him.
Sure.
So he's more reliable, but he's not more overpowering. You're not more helpless against him. So I listened to Andreas, I think his name is, who did a video on this document a few nights ago. And he made a point that, like, as it is in the current document, the Engine of the Gods is a bridge between the casting section and the bound spell section. Because it has a bound spell, but it boosts the casters. And what this change does is it kind of puts them into 2 silos and it makes them compete against each other.
Okay.
Which is, I don't know if that's a pro or a con, but it's an interesting perspective.
It makes it more prescriptive as to which direction you go, I guess.
Yes. We can talk more about the Bastiladons when we get to Bastiladons. I don't hate giving the Bastiladons some kind of boost to their reliability, because it can feel really bad when you are trying to hit that 7 on the dice, and any magic res is pushing you to an 8 or a 9, and you're just kind of important shooting turns hinge on like 3 rolls of 2d6.
Sure.
But I'm not sure this is the way to do it when it's on such an expensive monster to buff other expensive monsters. When it's taking away interesting synergies from the rest of the list.
Sure.
But question is, how good is this thing? And I think it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could do much worse than stand there and buff solar engines with this. And then the Stegodon runs over anything that gets too close. And it can be a character mount. And it can get itself to 8 wounds and a double save. And a hammer hand, if you fancy it. Be an Arcane Vassal. And that's a very attractive package for 335 points. So I think this is probably sort of bottom of A.
Sure. I think my feeling on the Stegodons without the Engine of the Gods is the regular Stegodon probably sort of like straddles the bottom of B, top of C, like the solid to weak line. I think it's just a bit underwhelming in terms of the points cost. But then the regular one is sort of very comfortably in solid without Engine of the Gods. Because you've got that,
I think
strength 6.
Ancient Stegodon with just mundane weapons is sort of bottom half of B, I think, and then the baby steg is somewhere in C.
Yeah. But then, as you say, with Engine of the Gods, now it's better.
So it's spanning it's running the gamut.
Yeah. Everything apart from unplayable, which is pretty ideal. I can live with that.
Yeah.
So the obvious thing to move on to is Bastiladons now.
Yeah, so I'm currently wondering whether I should try going without these for a while. Because they are very expensive and other things have got more expensive. And I think for a long time, you played Bastiladons because they were the best of a bad bunch.
Sure.
And now maybe with things like Pterodons and Rippers and so on, particularly at lower points values, particularly when I don't have SPC to play with, it's just better to try to be more efficient with those peripheral choices. They are still pretty good. Sure. I think if you consider them in their role as like a pseudo war machine, a Hellblaster costs like 120 points, right?
Sure.
Something like that. The output's quite comparable to a Hellblaster. You are doing 3d3 strength 5 AP2, and a Hellblaster is firing 3d10-ish. strength 5 AP ones,
3. Yeah.
which do roll to hit.
Yep.
Whereas yours don't. But of course, you have to actually cast.
Sure.
Which is with an engineer support is kind of a wash. And for the extra kind of 55 points, you are getting to be a stubborn T5 3-up save monster that can move, cause terror, amp on people. That's not a terrible trade. So I don't think I think they're pricey, but not necessarily unreasonably pricey. They give you that long range pressure that lets you it's the best thing in the army for sort of making the opponent be on the back foot and taking the initiative because you're not a fast army.
Yep.
Just being like, I'm setting up this board state with all my movement 6 infantry, but I'm also pressuring you at 24 inches, and I'm saying, come on, respond to me. Run into my carefully constructed minefield of skinks and dinosaurs rather than just me having to run at you. That's incredibly valuable. There's not anything else in the list that does that. Yep. They suffer a bit in the fact that, some big kids came into the playground and started being mean to people with magic missiles, and now everyone's taking magic res. And
give it 2 weeks, it's going to be fixed. I swear.
Yeah. But yeah, they suffer into magic res. They really just switch off completely if you have magic res too.
Sure.
And you can, and if you're trying to play a 2-day event with them, they really do have hot and cold games because you're rolling so few dice to see what happens. You're not even like the other magic missile spammers where they have 5 casters all doing it. You've got 2 or 3 goes a turn. If you need to shoot something down that's coming in and 2 of them fail to go off, you're like, oh no. So I think these guys are, I would say they're between A and B right now for me, because I can now see other ways to do interesting damage, but they still feel like they're doing a very important job. I don't know if I'll come back to them or if they will, or if I will find out that those other things are better.
I'm going to put them at the bottom of A because it's very in line with other good aggressive or not even necessarily aggressive factions, but other factions that want to do stuff in melee, like Cathay and Exiles. Having the pressure from the shooting from the cannons is very, very valuable. Now those cannons are way better than Bastiladons, obviously. You do have some advantages, so you're playing a little bit of a denial game plan with the Temple Guard Brick and the Slan, and the Bastiladons can march out of charge range, or you can TMP them and they can still shoot after you've TMP'd them. So there is some nice stuff there. I think the problem is, as you've pointed out, it just feels terrible to roll 7s without even talking magic resist. If you're rolling 3 dice, three spells, on average 1.5 of them go off, and you can't pass half a spell. So, that's just
I think I agree that A is the right call. I've been kind of so locked into them for quite a while now that the idea of not taking them is feeling quite large in my mind.
Sure.
That I could do that and it wouldn't be terrible. But I think they are still good for all the reasons they were good before. And now that synergy with the Engine of the Gods got stronger, and I think they're going to feel very strong in some games where if you do the 770 point package and you've got 3 of them and they're all firing, 3 shots to it's going to lay waste to some stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you're still going to run them, I assume, because you've done literal electrical engineering on your models. I can't see you leaving those at home. It's too much effort.
I'm definitely not going to relegate them without fair testing. But yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about on them, their tail's pretty beefy now. Strength 7,
yes.
83.
So Val's confirmed he intends this to be one attack.
Oh, okay.
He intends to be one attack. You make the tail.
That's fair.
And it's unclear what he intends to be the rest of the attacks. So in the current document, in the Legacy PDF, their tail is Strength User AP3.
Yeah.
They can use all their attacks with it. Also strikes last when they are AP Initiative 1, regardless.
I love
just
that.
for fun.
Not even a legacy issue because the Necrosphinx has that. It's one of my favorite like dumb
Yeah.
things that doesn't actually hurt anyone, but
Yeah.
it's just funny.
Just in case you were to find a source of strikes
Yeah,
first,
yeah.
just to cancel
No,
it out.
no. This is a slow monster. Don't be getting any ideas.
Yeah, but yeah. So now I think before it would be like something would run into you, and you would be like, oh well, I am AP3 if I can roll these 6s to wound, and now it would be like if I can hit with this one attack, then 1 to 3 wounds, mate. It'd be probably a bit of a wash, but it will feel a bit more flavorful, I think, that the tail club is hitting like a sort of dwarf cannonball.
Yeah.
And it could really mess up a dragon ogre, which is one of the kind of things that might come and hunt you.
True. I don't think I want to see them go to a 1 attack tail. I think I'd rather they just had like a strength 5 AP3 attack. Like it doesn't need to be juiced. Like it's not necessarily meant to be a melee monster, right? I don't feel like it needs to go that way. But giving it 1 good attack and loads of bad attacks kind of feels like a bad downgrade, realistically, in my mind.
Yeah, it has stomps, so it's kind of a thing where like it will wreck stuff like dogs, and it's got the 1 high quality attack against something that has high toughness or armor.
Yeah.
Which kind of, if it feels like it sort of delivers the Ankylosaurus that it's supposed to be sort of vibe, I think.
True. Give it killing blow then.
If it had slightly more consistent monster damage, it would be very nice for it. If it was strength 5, like you say, that would be. The movement 4 feels appropriate, but the strength 4 does feel a bit like, is this really the strength of a monster? But I don't think it's going to affect the role of the unit either way.
No. This is window dressing as opposed to anything else.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the last of the monstery monsters, which is the Troglodon.
Yes, biggest glow up in the whole book. Went from, I think, unplayable
points.
to interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but my thought on this is it rhymes with the Shugengan. It's a 140 points. Baby Shug is 145.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, that's true.
For a caster who is also a monster who cannot get off his monster.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about where I run out of parallels, but it's
no.
It's
it has synergy with the better caster in your list. You bring it because you've brought another caster. Second point of synergy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have an inbuilt 3-up, 5-up. It doesn't have Constellation of the Dragon. It doesn't fly.
No.
And these are the reasons why it's not like a war crime that Val's made it like this.
Sure.
But it does now. So it's come down by 60 points from its old version, which was still a caster.
Yeah.
And it's gained an item allowance, which lets it do all sorts of useful things and lets it use that casting potential usefully.
Yep.
And the change to predatory fight to the raw, I think it's a buff for most things. I think it's worse for Cold One specifically, because you're no longer giving Furious Charge to the Cold One mount. So before, Furious Charge on a Cold One unit would give you simply +2 attacks on the base, 1 from the rider, 1 from the mount, and you could stack it, as Val proved to me. Furious Charge actually stacks. And they have a specific FAQ for Frenzy to stop it stacking, but they don't have one for Furious Charge.
Grim.
But so now I think like for 170 to 200 points, you can get a Troglodon who's a pretty decent caster, who's an arcane vassal for the Slan, who is giving you this really nice buff to Predatory Fighter that you can, if you can stack it with like Rippers or Saurus characters, is going to be very meaningful. And it's also just a monster running around causing terror, spitting venom on people. Its attacks are really rubbish, but it's not something that you would entirely ignore.
Sure. And also, both like all of the signatures you can take are like decent depending on what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Just want to hit on a monster? Sure.
Yeah.
Hammerhand on a bad monster? Sure.
It'll be half its output, right?
Yeah, it probably will.
That's Yeah, that's the other similarity to the Shugengan is that the output of the Longma and the output of the Troglodon are pretty similar. um, that's a bad one.
And it's a character, so it is a character, isn't it? Wait, oh no, it's not. Okay.
Yeah. It also, if you were to dally with the high magic slan,
Sure.
put Fury of Cain on Ripidactyls or Cold Ones, and you wanted to Arcane Vassal this thing to be ethereal, that also gives it reserve move.
True.
And it has a big flame template. It's a bit of rubbish big flame template, but it can run around and spit on things, and the rider can fire off Ruby Ring with a +2 from a nearby Engine of the Gods, or its own fireball that it's used to pick the Lore Familiar to take.
Yeah, I think if you're taking
with an itchy grub,
you're probably not taking the Engine of the Gods, just to be.
No, they do kind of, but unless your Engine of the Gods is new character section.
Yeah, but then I feel like you want things to juice. So like at that point, I'm like, give me
a
Ripidactyl
you're running out of
or
points.
Carnosaurs.
Yeah, I think the Troglodon is, and that's a really positive point for the design here. I think the Troglodon is encouraging different list archetypes. It's saying, "Oh, how about have some aggro dinosaurs?"
Yeah.
Of course, maybe there's potential here for the tools of the master being used against him, and this is instead used for, I'm going to put more fireball casters into my evasion list, more arcane vassals, more monsoons.
Monsoon's the one that I think is a problem.
But I think if you take monsoon out of that equation, if you take the itchy grub out of that equation, I don't think it looks like a horrible spam piece.
Sure. Yeah, I think as long as monsoon gets fixed to be not what it is, then I don't really have a problem with it being 140 points. I think it's just like, I mean, if the rumors are true, monsters are going to get a buff. So I'm hoping to see more special and rare slot monsters because they're cool. I want to see a list that's like, let's take high elves with a phoenix and have the phoenix be something that does a job. So it's nice to see a monster that you look at and you're like, this doesn't feel overpowered, but this feels like something I would play.
I might get mine out of the attic, and I would never have believed that until I saw this document. So that is some of the highest praise I can give our Canadian friend is that he's done something I didn't think was possible. Because I only ever used it once in 8th, and that was in a Swedish comp setting where, because it was bad, using it gave me points to spend on bringing things that were good.
I love how it's not even just old world that it's been cheeks in. It's just always been bad.
Oh, it's the it's classic 8th edition. Let's make a dual kit out of a unit we already had and invent a new unit. Yeah. What will it do? Who cares? Just throw a bunch of special rules at the wall. Oh, is that a good unit? Turns out no. I think possibly in 8th it was worse than it is in old world. I would have to go back and check the rules, but it was wild. It was like it was literally, what is the worst thing on this comp list that I can bring to offset the cost of bringing Lord Croak and Tetueco at the same time? The Troglodon.
Fair enough. Well, at least there was a reason.
Yeah. So congratulations on the Globe of the Troglodon. I think B, it's not going to be in every list, but it's very interesting. Yeah, maybe even A.
I can see a reason to take it. I think I'm hovering on the between B and A, kind of the same as the Ripidactyl riders, but I think they also go hand in hand.
I think fix Monsoon and it's in B. I think.
Sure. I think that's fair. All right. So when I watched Val talk about all of the bits he talked about, he said that he only gave the next 2 units, the last 2 units, the Salamander and the Razordon, move and shoot and reserve move, because he kind of wasn't sure which one to go with. So I'm assuming they get 1, and that's kind of how I've been evaluating them, in that they just keep whichever of the 2 is better. How do you feel about...
Sorry, go ahead. Ask a question.
You were going to say it should be move and shoot. Is that what you're going to say?
Yes, move and shoot. Move and shoot is what's important.
And it's also nice because the Razordon has move and shoot built in on the weapon just default. So all you're doing is you're upgrading
Yeah.
the Salamander to have the same level of mobility.
Yeah. The way I look at it is the Salamander, it fires, a flame template is 9 inches long, and it fires an artillery dice which goes up to 10 inches. So
Sure.
the furthest that it lobs its flame template is 19 inches to the end, or 10 inches to the back. To fire at a unit, if you think of an average infantry unit as being about 5 inches deep, and you're trying to get your shot to kind of get the template to the back of it.
Yep.
And with an average roll on a 6-inch of a artillery dice, that thing is traveling about 15 inches. So you're standing 10 inches in front of them to make that shot. If you don't have move and shoot, that meant you have to start the turn just 16 inches in front of them.
Sure.
So it takes, I've played this in the Legacy document, it takes far too long to stage these short-range shots. By the time your Salamander is in position, because you're really trying to get the right angle as well, by the time your Salamander's in position to take the shot, it's like turn 3 or 4. And it really, if your opponent's coming at you, it really needs to be able to be shooting from turn 2 to justify its presence as a non-core missile unit that, it's not a cannon. It's not going to destroy anything super valuable. It needs to be sort of ducking and weaving and firing off a shot every turn. Many of its shots will whiff completely because of this random element of the flamethrower thing.
Yes.
Reserve move is not going to help that, because that's going to be, you're still capped at how far you can reach. Then you can duck back after you've not shot, but that's not going to help.
Yep.
What you want to do is get around their flank where they can't see you and shoot from there.
Sure.
So move and shoot, please. That's what I want. And I think it's kind of interesting as it is. It's
sure.
AP2 on the flame template. You chuck that into a unit. If it's a cavalry unit, you'll generate like 4 partials. 2 hits at strength 4 AP2 could kill a knight. If you can keep doing that on a 65-point unit, that's not terrible. You can keep ducking and weaving and shooting.
Yeah. And if they stay in a Death Star meta, suddenly they're actually pretty consistent.
Yeah, if there is a big unit of infantry on the board and these things just lurking about, and it's just like, I'm going to. This is kind of like the equivalent of the skink. What skinks are to monsters, this is to infantry. That, like, if you leave me to my own devices, I'm going to whittle you down, and maybe I'm going to have a big turn, and you'll be sorry. But if you go after me, I'm a skirmisher at movement 6, and I cost nothing, and I'm going to scuttle away and make Zoidberg noises. So I like salamanders. They were a staple in old editions. I think they really they have there's a salamander spaced hole in the roster. Shaped a salamander shaped hole in the roster, because it's an army that plays around this kind of control skirmish shooting style. But right now the shooting is split between magic missiles and skinks. You really want some kind of middle level shooting.
I think there is a unit that fits the salamander shaped hole, and I don't think it's the salamander. I think it's the Razordon. And I think it needs to be fucking fixed, because it's auto hitting in a way that I do not think it should auto hit.
Yeah, so I think there's 2 obvious rules for the Razordon, right? There's needs more nails, which is the grape shot, and there's the organ gun version, multi-barreled.
Yes.
I think I'm not sure that I want to use the Razordon in this shape, because 75 points for a strength 3 grape shot. I'm not sure what targets I want that against. It's going to murder toughness 3 unarmored skirmishes. I don't think I'm afraid of toughness 3 unarmored skirmishes. I think my skink's going to murder toughness 3 unarmored skirmishes.
Okay.
I'm not sure that there is any more valuable target that's justifying me spending points in rare. I would be more interested in this unit, I think, if it was firing a higher strength, higher AP shot that rolled to hit.
Yeah.
Because then I'm gaining some range in what my shooting force can achieve. Whereas a grape shot blaster strength 3 is just I could buy more skinks.
Yeah.
And particularly since it's more expensive than the salamander as well, 75 points, they're starting to be kind of in that range of, well, that's sort of worth eating up. I mean, I understand I'm splitting hairs over 10 points difference here, but I think for more strength 3 shooting, I don't want to be paying above 50 points outside of core.
Sure.
Even if it's quite good strength 3 shooting. But it sounds like you have a different take.
Well, I just think the auto hitting is a problem for the way that the unit functions, because it's not really the shooting that necessarily worries me. It's the ability to do it on the stand and shoot that makes me go, like, really, like, that is probably where it falls down a bit too much. Because just the volume of shots that you put out, and I'm not necessarily looking at running them as singles. When I've envisioned this, it's leaning into we're playing very evasion heavy, so we're going 8 units of skinks, 4 in marching column, 4 like clouds of skinks, and then you're like, okay, cool, but how do I play actual evasion? What can I do with the rest of my points? And I feel like units of 2 Razordons kind of play into that quite well, because they march 12 inches and then they just get some auto hits. And a lot of stuff in the meta right now, sure, like the Beastman Death Star is toughness 4, but if you've just got volume of, theoretically, if you've got, even let's just say 4 of these, 4 artillery dice worth of shots, that's what, 6, 12, 18, 24... That's about 8 dead a turn between the 4 models for 300 points. And then you sort of pair it with everything else. Or if you're going into any army that doesn't have good core, will take peasant archers if they've got them. Or skink archers. So suddenly, like, this is good into skinks. It's good into peasant longbowmen. It's good into Cathay peasants.
Yeah, I guess as a chaff clearer, it's really good. I guess that is.
But
it's better.
The combination of March 12 inches, shoot, auto hit, and auto hit on the stand and shoot is just like, it's a lot of stuff. I'm like, oh, this feels like it kind of points you in a way of playing that seems quite oppressive.
I do think for both the weapons teams beasts, it's like, if this unit is actually threatening to upend your game plan, why aren't you shooting it? That would be, and that's why I think in old editions I always defaulted to having them in units of 1. So this is a chaff piece, because they're not hard to shoot down. You can
harder to shoot down than they were.
Whack them harder than they were. Not great targets for ballistic skill shooting. Not many things are.
Yep.
But a pretty good target for magic missiles. A very good target for war machines.
I haven't fully downloaded into my brain how the new one works, but wouldn't it be if you get hit by a cannonball on a 5+, that cannonball just kills a skink? Or am I?
Oh, that is true. Yes, you have the ablative skinks.
Yeah.
So possibly not great targets for war machines. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, so I think the Beastmen one, for example, they can just Viletide these things out of existence.
Sure. I mean, if you're Viletiding that, cool.
Yeah, and it's distracting you for a turn. That's fine. But like,
also, yeah, I don't know that
the standard shoot is a funny one.
Yeah, so on the Viletide issue, you have to face what you're looking at. Viletide on average, assuming we're not talking the High Tree Fetish, it does 3 wounds.
Yeah,
and these things have 6 wounds each. Assuming you don't get unlucky and just like
it'll use it too.
Yeah, so like
so it will cost you something.
It's actually a surprising amount of wounds, and they're T4 with a 4 armor save. I'm not saying that the stat line's disgusting, but I think they're like quietly tanky.
They take some work to get rid of.
Yeah. It just doesn't line up the way that you think it should for anything.
I'll be interested to put them on the board and see how they do. Interestingly enough, stand and shoot used to be one of their like defined strengths. I think in 8th edition it was like they fire like an organ gun with 1 artillery dice worth of shots. But if you charge them and they stand and shoot, they fire 2 artillery dice worth of shots each, because they get really antsy about it. So having a strong stand and shoot is part of the unit's identity, but I do agree that auto hits is a very strong rule.
Yeah, they could re-roll the artillery dice, because I was just looking at it, because
re-roll.
I think where the rules were pulled from, and Val's messaged me, but I haven't had a chance to get through what he said and get back to him. I just have been very busy. But in 8th edition, obviously, they did work. They shot the way that a grape shot was. But Grape Shot used to roll to hit, so that was the
Roll to hit, yeah.
yeah.
In 6th edition, before this unit existed,
Yeah.
salamanders fired like this. Salamanders would do an artillery dice worth of automatic flaming hits, and it was very strong because they were also quite high AP hits. I remember my friend who played Dark Elves being very upset about salamanders and me just cackling. He was a much better player than me, so he still won most of our games. But but I got to watch the elves burn, which was satisfying.
6th edition salamanders couldn't stand a shoot. I've just double checked. So they have the auto hits,
no,
but
they
they
could
don't
not.
get a standard shoot.
No, but what I'm saying there is the context is that it can definitely be a super strong rule to do automatic hits. And I hate Grape Shot because it kills my skinks. So I felt the sting in Old World as well. I think in 8th edition, Italians used to run Razordons with. There was a spell called Hand of Glory that would boost your ballistic skill by D3. So you would have a unit of 3 Razordons, and they would get up to ballistic skill 7, and then they would kick off. It wasn't that popular here in the UK.
Sure.
But yeah, so I think both these units. Maybe the Razordon is the stronger one. I don't know. You've semi-convinced me. I think both these units are going to struggle to find space in lists, but when they do, they're not going to be terrible.
Yeah. I like the points reduction on them as well. Like, I think I like where they are outside of just the auto-hitting shots. Now, in terms of who I am as a player, this is elf bullshit. This is pure, like, this time 2 years ago, I was running 20-odd Skaven, gutter runners with poison shooting, marching them around the board 24 inches and doing shooting stuff. I want to play this. I just don't think it should exist. But if it does exist, coming to a GT near you that runs, Renegades, because I'll be running maybe 30 of them. Well, no, not 30 of them, but I'll be running a number of them.
I did, because of our last chat, you made me think what models don't I own, and I realised Razordon was the only Lizardman in it I didn't own, so I ordered some 3D printed Razordons. I ordered 3 because that seemed like a reasonable amount, but the seller sent me 6. Ooh. So I could try this out. Perhaps I shall.
I think units of 2 in my head. Units of 2 are the sweet spot. So give that a go. I'm very keen to hear how that gets on.
Yeah.
So we do need to rank them as our last 2 units: the Salamander pack and the Razordon pack. I feel like both probably exist in solid, just at different ends of solid is where I feel they sit right now.
Yeah, I want to believe the Salamanders are solid, but I feel they might be in weak.
Yeah,
I feel
fair. I'm not going to argue.
Templates in Old World are just in a sad place. And Strength 4 AP2 is nice, but
I mean, I've been thinking about X-Force.
And I'll have to put. I don't think they survive against X-Force.
No. Sorry, just in terms of the talk about templates and those 2 units of regular Eurocopters with steam guns, which is only Strength 3 AP1. It's a lot more consistent because you can pick where they go, but like that does work into bigger units, and you've got to chip away and yada. But I'm like, I've convinced you on Razordons. You've maybe convinced me a little bit on Salamanders. I'm not going to put them on the table, but I'm like, you know what? Strength 4 AP2 flame weapon.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got my Salamanders are my oldest, most faithful models. I've got a lot of them. I am going to put them on the table. Maybe not quickly because I've got work commitments coming up, but
sure.
Yeah. So I think I don't want to lead anyone up the garden path on Salamanders. So I would say maybe they're in C for now, pending investigation.
Sure. Highlight needs further testing. Same with Razordons. But I think I'm comfortable leaving them at minimum in B. Oh, pardon me. Perfect. All right. Well, that was a long one. Thank you all for hanging around. It's been a good chat. It's been always good to get your thoughts on Lizardmen, and just in time for the game to completely change. He says optimistically, crossing his fingers that there's going to be a big shake-up of the meta. So we'll have to see how things represent there. Do you have any closing thoughts on Lizardmen that you don't feel like you've managed to cover in the last 2 hours 45 minutes?
No, I think we've been pretty comprehensive.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Fuck Skaven. All my homies hate Skaven. Um,
Great.
uh, Hail Sotek.
Sure.
Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure.